Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Fell for All for One's Daughter? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. The train rocked like someone was gently shaking the world to keep it awake. Nami sat upright, hands folded over a clear bottle half full of water, phone tucked under her right ear. Her hair lay over her shoulders in long, pale ribbons that always looked just wet. The glass beside her reflected a thin-faced girl with careful posture and a small, practiced smile. She tried it once, then let it go. "Tell me your cover again," her father said. The connection was clean. His voice never had to fight through static. It never fought at all. "I'm a transfer," Nami said. "Paperwork cleared after the incident. I'm starting 2 weeks late because of security checks." "Good." His tone was warm and even. "And your purpose?" "Observe. Learn. Report." She didn't whisper, but she kept it quiet. The man across the aisle had coffee breath. She faced the window. "You will be polite," he said. "You will be ordinary. If you cannot be ordinary, be a little boring. People forget boring." "Yes, father." A toddler too rose up, squirmed in his seat and made the small wet sound kids make right before they throw up. Nami calmly reached for the plastic grocery bag tucked into her backpack's side pocket and walked it up to the mother without thinking. "Here," she said soft. "Just in case." "Oh, thank you," the mother said, eyes wide with that tired gratitude you only see on parents. Nami nodded, turned, and the kid gagged. She gagged too, immediately, hand to her mouth. She forced herself to breathe through her sleeve. The mother made reassuring noises. The kid settled. Nami returned to her seat, eyes a little watery. On the phone, a brief beat. "Still sensitive to that?" "Yes." She sniffed once, embarrassed. "I'm okay." "You have always been soft with fragile things," he said, as if it were a compliment. "Remember, you hold them and then you let them go." Nami pressed the cold bottle to her cheek. "Yes, father." "If anyone asks about your quirk, you answer simply. You do not demonstrate without a teacher's direct permission." A breath. "Do not try to be impressive. You are most precious to me when you are careful." "I'll be careful." "Good girl." She looked out the window. The sky over Mizutafu was the light gray that promised either nothing or everything. "What if they ask why I smell like rain sometimes?" "Defer to biology," he said. "Your body self-regulates hydration. It is accurate. And harmless. What if someone is very nice to me? Then you will be nice back," he said, patient. "Kindness is a useful tool and a pleasant thing. You may accept it. You may also offer it. You are allowed to have good things for a time. Just not for long," she heard between the words. She swallowed, nodded to no one, and took a sip. "After classes, you will send me a message," he added. Short. Factual. "Yes, father." "Still waters hide best, my little rain," he said. "Stay ordinary." The train started to slow. The platform slid in, signs, clean tile, commuters, the damp smell she liked best. "I'm here," she said. "Then begin." The call clicked off. Nami tucked the phone away. The toddler across the aisle waved a cracker at her. She waved back. He bit it and seemed very proud of himself. The doors opened. Nami stood, lifted her bag, smoothed her blazer, and stepped into her first day. The station air smelled like wet concrete, soap, and a little frying oil. She liked it. It smelled lived in and not sterile. She followed the flow of people up to street level and kept her pace steady. No rushing. Rushing made people look at you. On the walk, she checked her list. Papers transfer authorization stamped. Bottle full. Extra bottle half full. Mints yes. Tissues yes. Small hair clip yes. The gates of UA High rose ahead, taller than she expected and somehow less dramatic in person. Security stood beside them, scanning IDs and bags. There were extra cameras mounted new, the metal looked too clean. A couple of students whispered, "Hee," as they went through. Nami fell into line. When it was her turn, she offered her papers and her bag with both hands. "Transfer?" the guard asked. "Yes, sir." He checked the paperwork, ran a quick scan on her bag, and handed it back. "Welcome to UA, Shigarame." "Thank you." She moved through the gate and onto the campus paths, where a handful of students in gray blazers cut across the lawns. The building was all angles and glass, reflecting the pale sky. Her hair reflected it back. Inside, the front office was quiet for exactly 1 second. "W come. Present Mick's voice arrived ahead of him. He slid through the nearest door like a wave of sound wearing a yellow jacket. "Transfer energy. I'm feeling the transfer energy. You must be Nami Shigarame. I'm Present Mike. Please keep all shouting within my brand guidelines." Nami blinked. "Hello. I'm Nami." She bowed slightly. "Thank you for meeting me." "Oh, polite," he said, delighted. "We love a manners moment. Come on, little rain cloud. Oh, can I call you that? Let's get you to homeroom." "You can call me Nami," she said, neutral. Her phone vibrated once in her pocket with a calendar alert she did not need. She silenced it. He led her down the hall, talking at a speed she found comforting. She liked fast talkers when they meant it. "So, 2 weeks late, but on time in the cosmic sense. Mr. Aizawa is back today, stitched together and cranky as ever, but we love him. You'll meet the crew. Quirk on file says, water generation and manipulation. Cool. Oh, do you prefer generation or creation?" The kids get picky about words. "Either is fine," she said. "I don't mind." "You will after May Hatsum gets through with you," he said. "Kidding. Mostly." They turned into a staff room first. Aizawa sat at the table, eyes heavy but awake, scarf coiled like a cat, stitches peeking from his cheek. Ectoplasm stood near the window, folded arms, quiet as drywall. "Shigarame Nami?" Aizawa asked. "Yes, Mr. Aizawa." She stepped forward and placed her transfer packet on the table. He flipped it open, scanning. He had the energy of a man who trusted paperwork more than people. Nami respected that. "Late transfer," he said. "USJ delayed you." "Yes, sir. You have a doctor's note on file for hydration." He tapped the page with his pen. "You'll carry a bottle. If you need to step out to refill, you ask. If I'm talking, you wait until I'm finished." "Yes, sir." Quirk demonstrations by appointment. No reckless usage. If someone tells you to stop, you stop. "Yes, sir." Ectoplasm nodded once in what might have been a greeting. Present Mike leaned into it and shoulder bumped his arm. "She's extremely polite, Eraser. You're going to hate how easy this is." Aizawa ignored him. He slid the packet back to Nami. "Seats open near the middle. You'll introduce yourself. Then you'll sit. Don't take the shouting personally." "Okay." She held the packet with both hands. "Thank you." Aizawa stood, tested his shoulder with a small wince, and jerked his chin toward the door. "Let's go." Class 1A buzzed even when no one was speaking. Desks arranged in tiers, sunlight coming in at an angle, notebooks out, straps of book bags half-zipped like the room had been paused mid-movement. Heads turned when the door opened. Aizawa stepped through, doing nothing to announce himself. He didn't have to. "Sit down," he said, and people sat. Nami followed, feet quiet, hair a pale curtain down her back. She set her bag gently beside the teacher's desk, then straightened as Aizawa spoke. "We have a transfer student joining us today," he said, voice flat. 2 weeks late because the world is inconvenient." He looked at Nami. "Introduce yourself." Nami faced the class. "Do not be impressive," she reminded herself. "Be ordinary." "Hello," she said. "I'm Nami Shigarame. I transferred from a private program. My quirk is water creation and control. Please take care of me." She bowed, short and neat. The class responded like a flock of birds. A few cheerful hellos, a curious whoa, and one very loud, huh? Aizawa pointed. "Seat," he said to her. Then to the class, "Questions can wait." Nami walked the few steps to the middle row and slid into an empty desk. The boy to her left had spiky blonde hair and an irritated face that looked like it had been honed from irritation over time. He didn't look at her. The girl to her right had brown eyes and a warm grin. She did. "Hi," the girl whispered. "I'm Achiko. Uraraka. Welcome." "Thank you," Nami whispered back. In front of her, a boy with messy green hair stared resolutely at the front, open notebook in perfect grid. He peeked once, quick, then pretended he hadn't. His pencil shook like it wanted to run. Aizawa started class with makeup notes, safety briefings, and a reminder that no one was allowed near the USJ until repairs were finished. The room obeyed. Nami took notes in small block letters, checked off boxes on her own list, and sipped water when Aizawa looked down at his clipboard. It took exactly 8 minutes for the first whisper to reach her ear from the row ahead. "Your hair," the green-haired boy said without turning around. "Does it? Sorry, does it always?" Nami leaned forward a little. "Yes," she said quietly. He turned halfway in his chair, eyes bright behind his freckles. "Always? It stays like this even when it's dry," she said. "It doesn't drip." He caught himself. "Sorry. That's really interesting." "Sorry." "You don't have to apologize," Nami said. "I get that a lot." Mina, pink skin, glitter eyes, leaned over 2 desks. "It's so pretty," she stage whispered. "Do you, use product, or is it a quirk thing?" "Quirk thing," Nami said. Aizawa didn't look up. "If you can ask it without using your vocal cords, try that first," he said, and a little ripple of guilt moved through the seats. Half the heads ducked. Nami folded her hands again. The green-haired boy faced forward but kept glancing back, the way people do when they're trying to respect rules and their own curiosity at the same time. She liked him instantly. Fast brain. Good intentions. She could tell by the way he held his pencil like it mattered. A bell rang for the next PRD. Aizawa's eyes slid shut for one long blink. "You've got 10 minutes, he said. "Don't waste them." The room exploded into conversation. "Transfer," Kaminari said, appearing on Nami's left and accidentally bumping her bottle with his elbow. He wobbled, she caught it. "Whoa, reflexes." "Sorry." "It's okay," she said. "I'm Denki," he said. "Electricity." "Zzz. Please don't zap her," Jiro said from behind him, dry. "I won't," he said, then thought about it. "On purpose." Ida had already stood, arms chopping the air in formal welcome. "Shigarame. I am Tenya Ida, class representative. I am here to assist with any logistical onboarding needs you may have, including finding the bathrooms, the nurse, the cafeteria," Achiko added, softer. "We can help." "I'm Mina," the pink girl said, practically in Nami's lap, chin on hands. "Your hair is giving mermaid and I'm obsessed." "Thank you," Nami said. Compliments still surprised her, even when she expected them. "I'm happy to be here." Blonde and irritated finally turned his head, glanced her up and down like she might sprout a second head, then looked away. "As long as you don't slow us down," he said, to no one in particular. "Bakugo," Kaminari stage whispered. "Ignore him." "I'm not slow," Nami said politely to Bakugo's shoulder. He didn't answer. That was fine. The green-haired boy finally gave in and turned fully around. He looked like he'd been holding a conversation in his head for 5 minutes, and it had burst the dam. "I'm Izuku," he said, then flushed. "Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya." He stuck out his hand, realized that was weird across the gap, and half retracted it. Nami leaned forward and shook it anyway. His hand was warm. Hers was cool. "Hi, Izuku." The flush turned entire face. "Oh, you don't have to, you can call me Midoriya, everyone calls me." "I like Izuku," Nami said, throwing the word a small trial smile. "Is that okay?" He made a noise that might have been English with the vowels removed. "Yes." "Yes." "Okay," Nami said, satisfied. "Thank you." Across the row, Kirishima grinned big. "Man, we are starting the day strong," he said. "Welcome aboard." "Thank you," Nami said again because it felt right, and because the thanks seemed to make people relax. She was not trying to manipulate anyone. She had simply learned that gratitude made rooms easier. The bell cut the break. Aizawa didn't have to say anything. People slid back into seats like they'd been doing it together for years. The next lectures moved. English with present mic, loud. Math with ectoplasm, precise. Hero ethics with midnight, sharp and funny in a way that made half the room blush and the other half take notes faster. Nami stayed steady, hydrated, quiet. She answered when called on, short and correct. She asked 2 questions in ethics and 1 in math. She pretended not to notice when present Mike beamed at her for passing him a throat lozenge before class. She had extras. Everyone always needed them. By lunch, she had a small map of the building in her head and a bigger map of the people around her. She followed Achiko and Ida through the cafeteria lines. The food smelled warm and heavy. She aimed for the cold station. Fruit, cucumber salad, yogurt, rice. 2 bottles of water. She paid, said thank you 3 times to the server, to the cashier, to the boy who moved his tray so she could pass and found a table with her new orbit. Achiko, Ida, Kirishima and Izuku. Do you mind if Nami started. Sit, Kirishima said. Definitely sit. She sat. Ida folded his hands. If I may ask, Shigurame. Nami is fine, she said. Nami, he corrected instantly. Why the private program? If that's not too forward. It was small, Nami said. She put a grape in her mouth and chewed, thinking. More attention but not a lot of. Pierce. I watched a lot of movies. Izuku lit up. Which ones? All of them, Nami said, deadpan, and then smiled to make sure he knew she meant it playfully. I like hero movies that are funny at the end. Same, he said, instantly serious about a very unserious category. I mean, the hopeful tone is sorry. I talk too much. I don't mind, Nami said. What's your favorite? He blinked. Of all time. Right now, she said. He muttered for 5 seconds in 3 different lanes of thought and then said, the one where power load saves the dog. It's not even big in the fandom, but issue 47, Nami said, automatic. The panel where the rope snaps and he uses his belt instead. Izuku made the exact sound a tea kettle makes. Yes, he said, and then quickly, yes. Exactly. You read it? My dad collected them, Nami said casual. We watched the old cartoons together. Izuku caught himself before saying cool again. That's nice. Achiko watched the exchange with the smile of someone who found a puppy and a kitten being friends. You two are going to be dangerous, she said fond. Dangerous is my department, Bakugo said from the next table without looking up. Okay, Kirishima soothed. Alpha dog we know. Nami ate her fruit slowly. She liked cafeteria noise. It was messy and human. She liked the way Izuku's hands moved when he talked, the way Achiko picked the tomatoes out of her salad without thinking, the way Ida cut his food into perfect squares. She liked the smell of soap on the sleeves of someone behind her and the clean linen scent that clung to the cafeteria trays. She didn't like the chemical bite from the table cleaner, but it faded. You okay? Izuku asked after a minute, noticing the small wrinkle of her nose. Yes, Nami said. Just a strong smell. I'm sensitive to those. Oh. He fumbled a napkin packet toward her like that would help. Sorry. I mean, do you want to switch seats? I'm okay, she said. Thank you. He nodded, relieved to be helpful anyway. If you ever need water and you run out, I usually carry extra bottles. I forget to drink them because I get distracted, but I have them. Nami blinked. You have extra water you forget to drink? Izuku flailed, embarrassed. I mean yes. I carry them for training and he gave up. Yes. That's perfect, Nami said, sincerely. We'll share. He smiled like someone had approved of his entire life. Afternoon meant basic hero training rotations and safety checks. No quirk usage for her yet. That was fine. Nami shadowed where she was told. She stood with a clipboard while teams ran rescue scenarios in the gym. She watched Izuku direct a small group through a fake collapsed hallway with frantic seriousness and good instincts. He didn't shout. He just kept moving and telling people exactly 1 step ahead of where they were. It was efficient. It was kind. Aizawa walked past her once, eyes dropping to the water bottle in her hand. It was almost empty. "Refill," he said. "Yes, Mr. Aizawa." She went, quick but not frantic, back to the fountain. The water in the pipe was cold. She let it trickle over her fingers for an extra second before filling. She didn't call that poetic. It just felt good. In the nurse's office, Recovery Girl gave her a once-over, printed a hydration schedule, as a suggestion, dear, and told her to sit if she ever felt lightheaded. "People push too hard their first week," she said. "Don't be people." "Okay," Nami said. She felt fine. She wrote down the schedule anyway and added a smiley face because the nurse looked like she'd appreciate it. By the end of the day, Nami had 3 pages of notes, a small map in pen, 8 new names she could place to faces, and 1 line at the bottom of her paper where she wrote, for no reason she could explain, "Izuku." She put a PRD after it and covered it with her hand until the bell rang. Students funneled out the front doors and scattered into the late afternoon. No dorms. Everyone vanished to buses and trains and sidewalks, their little lives unfolding in directions Nami didn't know yet. She stood under the overhang while a gentle mist moved across the campus. The ground smelled like it had already rained somewhere else. Izuku jogged up with his bag slung wrong. "Hey," he said. "Do you know which train?" "Blue line to Mizudafu Central," Nami said. "Then transfer if you need the outer loop." His eyes widened. "Oh, do you take that one?" "Yes." She hesitated. "Do you want to walk to the station together?" He blinked like asking was the surprising part. "Yeah," he said, a little breathless. "Yeah, sure." They turned down the path. Ida called something about safety and sidewalks. Achiko waved, mouthed "be nice" at Izuku with a smile, like he had any other setting. Nami lifted her hand and waved back. They walked without the awkwardness Nami had learned to expect from first days. He didn't feel like a stranger. He felt like a person she'd known online for years and had finally met in real life, and he was exactly the same. He pushed his hair back with ink-stained fingers. She tightened the elastic around her hair just to keep it tidy. "You did great," he said after they crossed the first light, neck flushing a little like the compliment made him nervous on her behalf. "First days are rough." "It was okay," she said. "Everyone's loud but not mean." "Yeah," he said. "They're good. Loud good." They reached the station entrance. A woman hurried past them toward the stairs with a hand over her mouth and that wobble in her step that meant bodily betrayal. Nami paused, grabbed another plastic bag from her backpack, and held it out without comment. The woman took it and barely managed, "Thank," before rushing down. Nami pressed a hand to her own mouth and breathed through her nose until her stomach stopped making bad decisions. "You okay?" Izuku asked, worried. "I'm a sympathy puker," Nami admitted. "It's not my favorite trait." He looked oddly relieved. "Me too," he said. "Don't tell anyone." "Secret," Nami said, and they both smiled like idiots. They descended to the platform. The train pulled in, doors sliding open with a clean sound that made Nami happy every time. They stood holding the same pole, a polite distance apart. "Can I ask you something?" Nami said. "Yeah," Izuku said. "Anything." "How do you know when you're doing it right?" she asked. "Doing what?" "Being here." She kept her eyes on the window as the station blurred. "People say, hero, like it's a thing you are or you aren't. I don't know how to tell if I'm the right kind of person for this." Izuku thought for a second like he was checking his notes and found none. "I don't think there's a test," he said. "I think you just try to help. And if you mess up, you try again better." "That's simple," Nami said. "It is," he said, and then, because he was Izuku, added, "and also incredibly complicated, and I make color-coded plans for it." Nami laughed, hand over her mouth. "I'd like to see those." "Okay," he said too fast. "Yeah. I can show you sometime." "Thank you," she said because she meant it. The train slowed. "This is me," he said. "I switch here." "Okay." She stepped back to give him space. "Bye, Izuku." He paused like he wanted to say something else, then went with, "See you tomorrow." "Tomorrow," Nami echoed. He hopped off. The doors closed. He waved through the glass. then turned and ran up the stairs 2 at a time. Nami took out her phone and typed. Arrived. Everything normal. She hovered a second, then added. Made a friend. She deleted the second line, considered, and replaced it with. Teachers competent. Class energetic. She hit send. The reply came almost immediately. Good girl. Observe quietly. Nami tucked the phone away. The train moved. She watched the city slide by, roofs and billboards and a cloud that looked like nothing in particular. Her hair lay on her shoulders like water that had decided to sit still for a while. When she got off at her stop, she walked the 3 blocks to the small apartment arranged for her plain, clean, temporary. She put her bag by the table, refilled both bottles, and set one by the bed. She wrote 2 things on a sticky note and stuck it to the wall above the desk. Ask Izuku about issue 47. Buy more plastic bags. She opened the window. Cool evening air moved across the room and the faintest thread of moisture came with it. She breathed in. It smelled clean. Nami brushed her hair out, long slow strokes from root to end, the way she'd been taught. She sat on the edge of the bed and let the day replay in small pieces, Aizawa's flat eyes, present mix volume, Achiko's grin, Ida's hand chops, Kirishima's laugh, Bakugo's scowl, the nurse's kindness, the cafeteria smell, the way Izuku said yes the second time like it was easier the second time. She set an alarm. She drank water. She turned off the overhead light and turned on the small lamp. No poetry in it. Just enough brightness to not feel like a lab. Her phone lit briefly with a message she didn't open yet. She plugged it in. She lay down, curled on her side, and listened to a rain recording on her phone until the sound matched the rhythm in her chest. Tomorrow she would observe again. She would be careful. She would be ordinary. And if someone asked her a question, she would answer, because that was what she was made to do before she learned what she wanted. Sleep took her between the breaths. Outside, somewhere in the city, the real rain started. Then at 6. The lights in the ceiling warmed from dark to soft white like they always did at 6. Nami opened her eyes, listened for the hum in the walls, and counted to 10 before moving, because moving too fast got you reminders about patience. The floor was cool. She liked that. Her hair stuck to her neck the way it always did, a little heavy, a little shiny. She sat up and checked the list on the nightstand. It had a picture of a duck in the corner because she liked ducks and the doctor said pictures helped children follow lists. She could follow a list without pictures, but the duck made it nicer. Brush hair. Drink 1 cup of water. Wash face and hands. She brushed her hair. 100 strokes, slow. The brush clicked softly as it reached the ends. She drank her cup of water and washed her face and hands at the small sink. She made her bed by smoothing the blanket flat with her palm until no bumps showed. Then she sat on the edge and waited with her hands in her lap. On the wall screen, the clock changed. The hallway door opened without a knock because the locks were coded to the people who were allowed to come in. Father stepped through, looking the way he always looked in the morning. Neat, awake, not rushed, not tired. He wore a dark shirt, sleeves rolled to the forearm. His hands were clean. He smelled like nothing. Good morning, he said. Good morning, Father, Nami said. She stood. He held out his hand. She stepped close and let him take the back of her head lightly, checking temperature. It was normal. He lifted a strand of her hair and rubbed it between 2 fingers. Hydrated, he said, which was another word for fine. Did you sleep well? Yes. Any bad dreams? No. He nodded, satisfied. Breakfast. They walked the short hallway to the small dining area. The floors here gleamed like the inside of a shell. A place setting waited for her. A small plate of melon cubes and cucumber slices, a little pile of salt, a dish of yogurt, a higher glass of water than the morning cup. Father's place had coffee and toast and a folded paper with print she couldn't read from here. The chairs did not squeak when pulled out because someone had put felt on the feet. Nami climbed into her chair and waited until he sat. He didn't tell her to wait. He didn't need to anymore. Posture, he said without looking, and she straightened a little. He did look then, and the corner of his mouth warmed. They ate. Nami liked melon because it was cold and sweet without being sticky. She dipped a cucumber slice in the salt, tasted, and decided it was too much salt. She ate the rest plain. Recite, father said after a few bites. Nami swallowed. Good morning, thank you for breakfast, I will try my best today. Louder, he said, but not unkind. Diction is respect. She sat up straighter. Good morning, thank you for breakfast, I will try my best today. Better. He sipped his coffee. What do you do if an adult gives you an instruction you don't understand? I ask them to repeat it, Nami said. Or I ask if they can show me. What do you do if two adults give you different instructions? Follow the one with primary authority, Nami said. If I don't know who that is, I go still and ask. Very good. He tapped the paper once with his finger. You may ask questions. You do not question. She nodded. That difference had been explained very carefully once. She remembered. After breakfast, he said, outdoor hours. Stay inside the fence. Keep your bracelet visible to the cameras. If you find a frog again, do not bring it in the house. The frog jumped, Nami said. I didn't know it would be so jumpy. It is a frog, he said. They jump. I know that now, she said. He accepted the learning. Tamura will be in the garden this morning. He has been told to give you space. If he does not, what do you do? Say, please move, she said. If he doesn't, I wait. Or I go around. If he pushes you? I get up, Nami said. I don't push back. Correct. He watched her finish the last melon cube. If he touches you with all 5 fingers? Nothing happens, she said, simple. I'm family. Good. He stood. After outdoor hours, you will see the doctor. Then we will practice. Nami slid off her chair and wiped her face with her napkin because even if you didn't see juice, it could still be there. She carried her plate to the counter. Father took the plate from her before she could set it down and put it in the sink himself. He never minded doing things with his hands when he was home. Then he brushed the back of his knuckles lightly along her temple, the same way he did when she was a baby. It felt like being approved of. Calm surface, he said. Sees everything clearly, she said back. Go on, little Rain. She went. The garden wasn't big. Grass, a low tree that was good for shade but not good for climbing, flower beds along the walls, a square of stone tile where Tamura liked to sit when he didn't want dirt on his shoes. The air smelled like damp earth and something clean from the vents. Cameras watched from the corners. Nami didn't mind the cameras. They were like quiet bugs that never did anything. Tamura sat on the stone with his knees up, elbows on them, chin in his hands. He had a little console in his lap. The screen was scratched. He was 11 and looked like no one told him his hair stuck out in 6 different directions. He didn't like to be told things like that. He scowled at the console like it owed him money. Morning, Bubba, Nami said. Don't call me that, Tamura said, automatic. Okay, Bubba, she said, because it made him huff, and his huff today was not the bad kind. He flicked his eyes toward her and then back to his console. You're late. The lights were slow, she said, which was not true, but it gave him something to correct. They're on a timer, he said. They're never slow. Okay, she said. The lights are normal. Yeah. He mashed a button. The little device made a sound and the cartridge compartment crumbled into gray dust. Tamura breathed out hard through his nose. He didn't throw the rest of it. He put the dust down carefully on the tile. Then he put the remaining half console next to it and pressed his hands to his hair. Do you want mine? Nami asked. I don't want yours, he said as if she had offered him a disease. Go. I dunno. Go do kid stuff. I am a kid, she said. Yeah, he said. Go. Spin or something. She pictured spinning and decided that would make him dizzy just to watch it. She looked at the single tree. The trunk was too thick for her arms. She looked at the grass. She liked the grass. It felt cool through the thin soles of her shoes. On the far side, near the wall, a small movement flickered, soft and not like a leaf. Nami crouched and squinted. The thing moved again and sat. It was a small white butterfly with little black dots and a tear in one wing like it had been held wrong once but kept going anyway. She set her hands together in a cup and held them open, palms up. She didn't make a sound. She didn't breathe deep. She didn't wiggle. She just waited. The butterfly lifted from the blade of grass and drifted over, dipped, and landed on her left palm. Nami's chest tried to do something big. She squeezed her lips shut around a squeak and it came out as a tiny hiccup. Her cheeks got hot. She leaned forward a little, not to trap it, just to see the little head and the moving legs and the way the wings opened and closed like slow breathing. "Bubba," she whispered and then remembered. "Tomura." "What?" he said without looking, because he didn't look when he thought you were going to say something boring. "Look," she said. He looked. He frowned, but it wasn't his deep frown. It was his to-the-side frown that meant interest pretending to be boredom. "It likes me," Nami said, still whispering because that felt correct for the size of the thing. "If you hold it, it'll die," Tomura said, like a fact he would throw if someone argued, but she wasn't going to argue. "I'm not holding it," she said. "It's holding me." He made a face at her words like they were sticky. He pushed off the tile and came closer, scuffing his shoe sideways so he wouldn't step on the dust piles by accident. He leaned over her hands. When he got too close, the butterfly lifted and then settled again. "Don't breathe on it," he said. "I'm not," she said, not breathing. "You're gonna keep it?" he asked, challenging her. "No," she said, steady. "I'm going to show father and then let it go." Tomura's mouth twitched. He could not think of a reason to be mad about that. He needed a different reason. He went for his favorite instead. "You're annoying." "I know," she said, easy. "Do you want to come?" "No," he said, instant, as if the word came on springs. "Okay," she said. She stood slowly. The butterfly stayed. She walked slowly. The butterfly stayed. She went to the door and used her elbow to press the plate. The door slid open. The air inside smelled like cool metal and lemon. Tomura followed because of course he did. He followed like someone who would complain about following the whole time. "Don't drop it," he said. "I won't," she said. They went down the hall. Father's office door stood open. He was at his desk, looking at something on a screen that had too many small columns for Nami to care about. He looked up when they stopped in the doorway because he always did, like there was a string tied from his eyes to the place where the air moved. "Father," Nami said, still quiet. "Look." She raised her hands the smallest amount. The butterfly opened and closed and did not leave. She felt it like a weight but not heavy, more like a holding of attention that made her hands feel important. Father's eyes moved from the butterfly to Nami's face. Something in his look softened in a way she recognized without a word being said. Approval kiss. A small, clean happiness he only showed when she did a task exactly right the first time. "Beautiful," he said. "Where did you find it?" "In the garden," Nami said. "By the wall." "And what do we do with gentle things, Nami?" "We hold them carefully," she said. "And then?" "Let them go," she said. He nodded once, slow. He reached out like he might touch the butterfly and then changed his mind and touched the back of her hand instead with one cool finger. "Very good." Tomura made a disgusted sound that wasn't real disgust. "It's a bug." "It is a life," Father said without looking at him. Same tone. Not a correction you could argue with. Tomura slouched 2 inches lower, hands in his pockets he wasn't supposed to use because he picked at the seams. "If she keeps it, it dies." "She's not keeping it," Father said. His eyes moved to Nami again. "You may release it." "Yes," Nami said. She didn't want to. She also wanted to. Both feelings could live in the same place without fighting. She turned, walked back to the outside door, and stepped to the edge of the threshold. "Goodbye," she whispered to the butterfly. She tilted her hands open. It rested a second longer and then left in one clean lift, up and away across the square of sky you could see between the buildings. Nami smiled. It was not a sad smile. It was the kind of smile you did when a thing did the thing it was meant to do. Tomura leaned in and poked her shoulder with 2 fingers, just to prove he could touch her without breaking anything. It was the kind of poke that would have hurt if he didn't adjust at the last second. He had learned to adjust around her. "Bubba," Nami said, mouth still curved. "Stop," he said, out of habit. "Okay," she said, and tucked a piece of hair behind her ear. The doctor's room always smelled like alcohol pads and something sweet from the vitamins. He sat Nami on the table that crinkled under the paper and took her weight and height. He checked behind her ears and pressed gently on her stomach and listened to her lungs like the stethoscope could hear water if there was too much. "How many cups this morning?" he asked. "2, Nami said. "And my big glass." "Any dizziness?" "No." "Any headaches?" "No." He looked into her eyes with a little light. "Look left. Look right. Follow the light." She did. The light made dots when she blinked after. He wrote notes in her file on the tablet. "Oh good. Keep drinking. Don't spend too long in the sun this afternoon." "I won't," Nami said. She swung her feet once because the table was high and it made her toes tingle. "Can butterflies remember people?" The doctor smiled with only one side of his mouth, which was how he smiled when he liked a question. "Not the way you do," he said. "But if you are calm, you will attract more of them." "Oh," Nami said, pleased. "I can do that." "I know," the doctor said, because he knew everything he was supposed to know about her and a few things he was not supposed to say out loud. He patted her knee twice and then wrote something else down. On the way out of medical, Tamura bumped her with his shoulder again. "You're not supposed to run in the hall," she said, because he was kind of running. "I wasn't," he said, which was not true. He hooked his fingers around her forearm and squeezed. All 5 fingertips touched skin. Nothing happened. The skin stayed skin. The little hairs bent and then stood back up. Nami looked down at his hand and then up at his face. He was watching the place where decay should start with the face he wore when a game didn't do what he wanted. Father's steps sounded from down the hall. Tamura let go before he could be told to. He shoved his hands into his pockets the wrong way and hunched, already annoyed with something he would not name. "Tamura," Father said when he reached them. He didn't sound angry. He never sounded angry. "What did we discuss about unnecessary contact?" Tamura's chin lifted the way it did when he was choosing to be difficult. "She's fine," he said. "She is," Father said. "Because I made her that way for you. That does not mean you test it when I am not present." Tamura's neck flushed. He wanted to scratch it. He didn't. "Whatever," he muttered. Then again, louder and flatter, "Whatever." Father looked at Nami. "You are not hurt." "I'm not hurt," she said. "Good." He lowered his hand to her hair again for 1 second. "Practice," he said. Then lunch. Practice took place in the training room with the white floor and the mirrored wall covered mostly by blinds because mirrors distracted. 2 glasses sat on a tray. Father set them 3 hand lengths apart. He filled one with water from a clear bottle, and the sound of it made Nami's throat want more. She drank before he had to tell her to drink. He approved with a nod. "Show me the bridge," he said. Nami set her hands, palm up beneath the full glass and palm down over the empty one. She let the water lift in a curve between the rims, trembling at the edges like it was trying to decide if this was a good idea. She breathed through her nose, slow. The curve steadied. She walked the water forward 1 inch at a time until most of it moved. A bead shivered and fell, hitting the tray with a small sound. "Slow your wrists," Father said, which was code for you are thinking about finishing instead of thinking about doing. She slowed. The last part slid over and took the shape of the empty glass. She let it settle. She put her palms on the table because that was the signal for done for now. "Again," he said. They did it again. They repeated in sets of 10 with short breaks. When her fingers shook, he told her to stop for 90 seconds and drink. When she reached for the bottle before the 90 seconds finished, he covered her hand lightly and said, "Wait." She waited. The 90 seconds ended. He moved his hand. She drank. He did not smile every time, but he smiled enough. In the middle of the 3rd set, she asked, "Do butterflies remember people?" "You asked the doctor," he said. It did not sound displeased that she had asked someone else first. "What did he say?" "Not the way I do," she said. "But maybe they like calm." "Then be calm," he said. "I am calm," she said. "Yes," he said. "You are." She did the bridge a 4th time without a spill. After practice, they ate at the small table again. Lunch was simple: rice, fish, Cucumber, a piece of fruit. Tamura sat opposite and did not speak for the first 10 bites. He ate angrily but carefully, because he had been told that plates were not weapons and he remembered that. Try this, Nami said, sliding one of her cucumber slices to the very edge of her plate so he could steal it without admitting he wanted it. It's crisp. Tamura stared at it like it had offended him. He leaned forward and snagged it with his teeth. He chewed. It's fine, he said, the word sitting exactly between praise and dismissal. Father pretended to be occupied with a message on his phone. Nami knew what that meant, approval without display. She ate another bite of rice. The rice stuck a little. She drank water and it cleared. After lunch, Father said, rest. Then reading. Then you may watch one episode. Episode, Tamura repeated under his breath like it was a treat he wasn't going to admit was a treat. Only one, Father said. Tamura rolled his eyes to show he had been wounded. Whatever. Language, Father said, not because the word was bad, but because the word meant nothing. Tamura picked up his cup with 2 hands the way he did when he didn't trust his fingers. Rest hour meant half an hour on her bed with the lights dim and no talking. Nami did not mind it. Her body liked stop times. She lay on her side and watched the water in the glass on her nightstand barely move when the air system changed cycles. She kept her eyes open because closing them made it harder to open them later. When the little tone sounded, she got up and went to the reading room. The reading room had shelves with plastic on the covers. Cartoons. Simple chapter books. Old hero magazines in binders. She picked the binder with the dog on the front because she liked the dog's face. She carried it to the rug and lay on her stomach with her elbows down. Tamura came in, looked at the shelves, and dropped into a chair with his feet on the seat and his back against the arm. He pretended to sleep. His eyes were open. Nami flipped pages. She liked the panels where you could see the small details. Belts. Gloves. The way a cape moved. The way a person's mouth changed shape when they were about to lie. She wasn't always right about that, but she liked guessing. What are you reading? Tamura said like a statement. Power Load, Nami said. The one with the rope. That one's dumb, Tamura said. I like the dog, Nami said. He snorted and turned his face away so she wouldn't see him smirk. When reading time ended, Father allowed 1 episode. They sat on the same couch, Nami in the middle, Tamura at the far end pretending he had better places to be, Father sitting straight with his arm along the back. The episode had a rescue in the rain. Nami liked the sound. When the hero slipped and caught themselves on a railing, she made a small noise and then clapped her hand over her mouth. It's fine to react, Father said, not moving his eyes from the screen. Okay, she said. When the episode ended, Tamura grabbed the remote and tried to start another one. Father pressed his hand on the remote. Tamura let go before they could have a talk about it. 1, Father said. Yeah, Tamura said. I know. You will train with me after dinner, Father said to him. Tamura's eyes lit in a way he could not hide. There were parts of training he hated. There were parts he loved because they made his head quiet. Nami understood that. She liked when her head went quiet too. What about me? Nami asked, not because she wanted to be included, but because asking questions was allowed. You will help the doctor, Father said. Sorting. He likes your neat hands. Okay, she said. Dinner tasted like salt and heat and the last of the day. After, Tamura followed Father down the hall with his shoulders up and his hands at his sides like he was walking into a storm he wanted. Nami went the other direction to the doctor's little lab where the lights were softer and everything had a label. She liked labels. They told the truth about where things belonged. They sorted ampoules into trays by color and date. She checked the dates twice without being asked. The doctor hummed once when she corrected one out of order. You have steady fingers, he said. Thank you, she said, and then, do butterflies sleep? They rest, he said. They find a place to be still. Where do they go when it rains? Under leaves, he said. Or wherever they can be dry. Okay, she said, satisfied that somewhere in the garden there were leaves doing their job. When the trays were finished, she washed her hands and dried them carefully. She didn't like the feeling of damp hands when she touched paper. Father said that was accuracy, not fussiness. She believed him. She met Tamura in the hall on the way back. He was sweaty and twitchy in a good way, like he'd run out of the bad spark that made him scratch. He shoulder bumped her again, lighter this time, and said, "Move," because he liked telling people to move, but he stepped around her before she had to choose. "Good job," she said, because that was what you said when someone did their hard thing. He made a noise that wanted to be thanks, but wasn't ready yet. Bath time meant warm water in the big tub with the non-slip mat. Nami washed her hair with the good shampoo that didn't make her nose itch. She combed it out with her fingers and watched the way the strands stuck together. She liked how it looked. She didn't know why anyone would want it to look different. When she stepped out, she patted her skin dry and left her hair alone so it could be itself. Father came to the doorway while she brushed. He leaned on the frame the way he did when he was deciding whether to say something or let time say it. "Tomorrow," he said, "you will have an extra half-hour outside. If it rains, you may still go out, but stay close to the door." "Okay," she said. "Do you think it will rain?" "The forecast says it might," he said. "I hope it does," she said, without thinking to filter the hope. He nodded like hopes were fine as long as you could still close your hands when you needed to. "Sleep," he said. "Good night," she said. "Good night, Nami." She went to her room. The lights dimmed in that slow way that didn't make your eyes hurt. She pulled back her blanket and slid in. She curled tight because she liked to feel the sides of the world against her back and knees. She set her bottle on the nightstand and took 2 small sips even though she wasn't thirsty. On the wall screen, she could pick a noise. She chose rain. Not thunder, just rain. The sound filled the room like someone shaking a jar of beads far away. She turned it low so she could still hear if the door opened. She watched the ceiling until the sound turned into the inside of her chest. Then she let her eyes close. "Goodbye," she said into the pillow, not to anything in particular, and not sad. "You can come back if you want." She slept. Down the hall, Father watched a different screen with columns and moving numbers. His hand moved over a keyboard the way other men moved over prayer beads. He paused once and looked at the ceiling like he could see through to the small square where his child's breathing evened out to match the noise she liked best. "Calm surface," he said, "to the room, to the plan, to the future that needed a shape." In the garden, the air vents exhaled cool and the leaves did their job. A white butterfly tucked itself along the underside of a leaf with a tear and waited for morning. Nami got to the classroom before the lights had finished deciding on day. Half the room was soft and gray, the other half was a reflection of windows. She set her bag under the desk, lined her shoes parallel, and put her water bottle at the back right corner where she wouldn't knock it over with her elbow. She liked starting like this, quiet, everything where it belonged. She refilled at the hall fountain and came back to find her pencil case exactly where she'd left it. She clicked each pen once to make sure they worked, then closed the case again. She folded her jacket over the chair. She sat. 2 minutes later, footsteps thundered from the hall, then slowed to a polite walk right at the threshold. Izuku came in like a very considerate storm, hair already doing its own ideas, notebook under one arm, bag slipping down his shoulder. "Sorry, good morning, sorry," he blurted, even though he hadn't hit anything yet. "Good morning," Nami said. He took the desk in front of her and placed his notebook down as if it were valuable and also heavy with secrets. "You're early." "I like being early," she said. "It's easier to think." He nodded so hard his hair bounced. "Same. Yeah. Did you sleep okay?" "I listened to rain sounds," she said. "Then I slept." He smiled like that was a correct answer. "Nice." More students filtered in. Ida called a cheerful good morning from the door and took attendance even though that was not his job. Mina waved with both hands. Jiro sat, put her earphone jacks in, then took one out again because talking started. Kirishima made a joke about protein that got exactly 2 laughs. Bakugo glared at the air until the air got the message. Aizawa came in last, as if he had been here all along and only now decided to be visible. He didn't say, "Good morning." He never wasted a word he didn't need. "Schedule change," he said, dropping a stack of handouts on the front desk with one hand and a pile of graded quizzes with the other. "Basic Heroics, second PRD, will be with All Might." Incident review after lunch. Don't be idiots. Yes, sir, the room said, not in sync but close. Nami drank, capped her bottle, and wrote, "B. All Might." The name looked loud on the page even as letters. First PRD moved notes, a short quiz, a reminder from Ida about hallway etiquette that was too formal for 8:30 a.m. Nami kept the shape of the class in her head and did not get in the way of it. She answered one question when Aizawa pointed at her, then went still again. She blended. It felt like breathing slow. Second PRD, the door opened so hard it bounced off the stopper and bounced back. Wind rushed in ahead of a voice that arrived like a poster come to life. I am. He stopped. All Might stood in the door, tall enough to make the top of the frame look unnecessary, cape in a neat fall, gloves bright, smile already beginning. Then he saw Nami and the smile caught. It wasn't big. It was a double take, the near-invisible kind trained performers bury under volume. Just a small flicker through 3 expressions: excitement, surprise, memory. His eyes focused hard, then softened, then focused again. It lasted half a second. Here, he finished, louder, almost too loud. Good morning, young heroes. Mina clapped because she always clapped for confidence. Kaminari hooped. Ida stood and bowed, then sat, realized that had been too extra, and sat smaller. Aizawa didn't look up from his grading, but one eyebrow got ideas. All Might strode to the front like nothing had happened. He set a clipboard on the podium. The clipboard slipped on a glossy page and he caught it a beat late. He cleared his throat and his throat didn't need it. Today, he said, a simple exercise. Control. Control is what separates a rescue from a disaster and a fight from a mess. We are going to practice moving an object across the room using your quirks without breaking it, each other, or anything I will have to fill out forms about. A few people looked at Mineta very specifically. He pretended he didn't notice and then noticed even more. All Might gestured to the side wall, where a teaching assistant had stacked a dozen foam ball the size of a grapefruit and set out cones and hoops like a small obstacle course. You will pick up a ball, you will get it through that course using only your quirk, and you will place it on the blue mat. You will not throw it, explode it, freeze it to the floor, or ask someone else to do it for you. If your quirk is not precise, then your body will be. Yes. Yes. The class said, a mixture of confidence and fear. All Might's eyes hit Nami once more like a soft ping, then moved on. He clapped his hands. The sound filled the room. Line up. They lined. Ida was first because he had made a chart in his head and it required that. Uraraka floated her ball with a gentle touch and too much smile, giggled when it drifted sideways, then corrected its path with open palms. Kirishima punched the air around his ball in very careful, very unpunching ways until the ball decided it had had enough and rolled obediently. Siro taped his to an invisible leash and guided it around cones with quiet pride. Jiro used low vibrations under the ball to scoot it like a cautious caterpillar. Tokoyami glared at his shadow until it obeyed like a well-trained dog. Mineta stuck his own ball to the floor and then had to pry it up again while All Might watched with the exact amount of patience needed to teach a toddler to share. Bakugo took his turn and scowled at the rules. He kept the ball floating with tiny, staccato pops that sounded like angry popcorn. He made it through the hoops with an expression that said he was above this and also desperate to beat this. The ball landed on the blue mat. He folded his arms like the mat should be grateful. Todoroki slid his ball along a thin skin of ice like a waiter with a tray. It was very neat. It was also exactly the thing All Might had said not to do, and All Might let him do it anyway because it was graceful and clean and sometimes you picked your battles. Aizawa did not look up. Izuku's turn came. He inhaled hard, nodded to himself, and used little snaps of controlled air to nudge the ball forward. It shivered and rolled, then hopped a tiny jump over the last cone like it wanted him to feel good about it. He did. He tried not to show it. He failed at trying. It was fine. Nami's turn arrived like time always did, whether you called on it or not. She stepped forward, picked up a ball, and set it at the start mark. The room smelled like gym floor, chalk, and laundry detergent. Her bottle was capped on the bench. She glanced once at All Might. He watched everyone the same way he watched the world outside, like any second might need saving. She lifted her right hand, palm up, and her left hand, palm down. She didn't have to do both. It just helped her keep the idea in one place. She breathed. A ribbon of water appeared in front of her like a thin pane of glass had just remembered it could bend. It didn't drip. It didn't splash. The room's hum got a little cleaner around the edges. A soft smell, fresh, not chemical, rose and then settled. Nami didn't look at anyone. She kept her eyes on the ball and the line she wanted. The ribbon slid under the ball and lifted, only a few centimeters, cradling it the way you hold an egg when you really want an egg to like you. She moved her hands a little left, a little right. The ball floated, balanced on the invisible curve, then glided forward. She led it through the cones. She didn't do any flourishes. She didn't rush. Her wrist stayed level. All Might didn't breathe for 1 second, then remembered to. He stood very still. Mina whispered, "Pretty," to no one. Izuku leaned forward like he could see better if he reached with his whole body. Nami reached the hoops, lifted the ball just enough to pass through, and lowered it. She could have spun it. She didn't. She could have split the water and made a tunnel. She didn't. She moved to the blue mat, let the ball settle, and closed her hands. The water winked out. The gym smelled like gym again. All Might looked like a person who had just remembered a room he'd left locked for years. He blinked once and changed expressions like changing gears in an old car. He smiled. It landed a bit high on his face. "Excellent control, young Shigarame," he said, a little too hearty. "Very good. Normal." He coughed. Very appropriate." "Thank you," Nami said, calm. She returned to the bench and sat. She twisted her cap off and took a sip. Her hair settled from its slight lift and lay in the shape it always did, like water that had decided to behave. The rest of class went the same way it always did when a simple exercise told on everyone. A couple of ball hit cones. One ball hit Mineta because Mineta had put his head in cone range. Kaminari almost overdid it and then didn't. Sato went slow on purpose, and All Might nodded like that was the point. The class kept moving. That was the point too. But every time All Might turned to give a note, his eyes flicked to Nami first. It wasn't suspicion. It was something older. On him, old looked like gravity. They finished with a short cool down, a reminder to hydrate, and All Might's characteristic thumbs up that made Mina give one back enthusiastically and Bakugo pretend he hadn't seen it. "Splendid," All Might said. "Dismissed. Lunch after 3rd PRD, and try not to destroy the hallways in the meantime." The class broke into free movement. Backpacks zipped. Conversations started in 10 places at once. Izuku turned around at his bench and nearly knocked his notebook to the floor. Nami caught it with a hand under the corner, balanced, and set it back. "Thanks," he said. "That was your control was like, did you feel the viscosity looked." "Sorry, too many words. It was really good." "It felt fine," Nami said. "The air here is easy. Not too dry." "Right?" he said, face lighting like a match. "Air humidity. That makes sense. Are you allowed to train in a pool? Or is that sorry, that's probably later. I'm getting ahead." "I don't know the rules yet," Nami said. "I'll ask." "Good idea," he said, and wrote ask like she had just invented consulting a teacher. Aizawa stood from his chair, gathered the stack of quizzes, and started the slow walk to the door. All Might watch the students file out, expression back to standard issue poster hero. When Nami reached the doorway, All Might's smile warmed properly for half a second. "Well done," he said lower, like it was for her and not the room. "Thank you," she said. He nodded and then looked away too quickly, as if looking longer would be something. She didn't know what. She stepped into the hall where voices piled up and then sorted themselves into groups headed toward the next class. Aizawa lingered in the emptying room. He was a man who could make lingering look like being busy. All Might adjusted his glove cuff. Aizawa didn't look at him. "That girl," All Might said. He kept his tone in the teacher range, not the hero one. "Shigarame." "What about her?" Aizawa said, already bored by the question. "Did you vet her?" All Might asked. "Personally." Aizawa looked up then, Because All Might never asked questions he didn't already have an answer to, unless the answer was important. Paperwork is in order, he said. Quirk verification matches. Transfer cleared. All Might nodded. Of course. Aizawa watched him for one extra beat. If you have a concern, use a full sentence. All Might smile did the thing smiles do when they don't want to spook people. She resembles someone I once knew, he said. That's all. Aizawa's eyes half-lidded. Coincidences exist, he said. Even in our lives. They do, All Might said, cheerfully enough that the cheer sounded set down rather than groan. They do. Indeed. Do not startle her, Aizawa said. She's polite. She'll follow rules. I'd like to see how she works before your face tells her anything. My face? All Might said, wounded theatrically. Your face, Aizawa said and left. All Might stood alone a second longer and let the room be a room. He looked at the spot where Nami had stood with her hands up and her head slightly tilted like she was listening to something small. Then he shook himself like a dog does when it gets out of a pool and walked into the hall to be seen by the world that needed seeing. Third PRD dragged the way third PRDs always did. Nami took notes. She asked a quiet question about a safety procedure and didn't mind when three people turned to listen like she had said something unusual. The answer was simple. She wrote it down like it mattered anyway. At lunch, she went with Achiko and Ida and Izuku again. They made a shape around a table like they'd practiced and then forgot they had. Nami picked cold things again: fruit, cucumber, yogurt, rice, and 2 bottles of water because she didn't want to get up in the middle. She thanked the server and then the person who moved their tray and then the person who had wiped the table. No one told her to stop thanking people. It made the room easier. You were so smooth, Achiko said, leaning in with honest admiration. It looked like glass. It's just water, Nami said. It likes the air here. Izuku made a note. We should test humidity variables in the training gym versus outside. That might change your exertion rate. We, Kirishima said, appearing with a tray stacked like a dare. We as in you two are gonna turn training into science again? I'm in. I'll lift the things. We will not be lifting anything during humidity tests, Ida said, already alarmed. We will be asking for faculty supervision and following procedures. Of course, Izuku said, reflexively, like he had always meant to do that. Bakugo sat at the next table and pretended the conversation did not exist. Mina flopped into the seat across from Nami and stole one grape with an apologetic grin that made the theft legal. So, Mina said, is your hair always like that because of your quirk or your routine? Because if it's a routine I need the list. Quirk, Nami said. It just stays like this. I don't use anything. Mina put her head down in despair. Unfair. It's pretty, Achiko said. I like it. Thank you, Nami said, and looked at her plate until the part of her chest that didn't know what to do with compliments quieted down. Izuku drank water without noticing and choked once. He tried to apologize to the water. Nami offered him a napkin like that would help with choking. He took it like it would. Do you think All Might was okay? He blurted into the pause. He seemed off? A little? He dropped his clipboard, Ida said. That is uncharacteristic but not impossible. He looked at me like he had a thought, Nami said, honest? Then he did not have that thought anymore. Achiko laughed softly. That's very specific. Nami shrugged one shoulder. It's what it looked like. Izuku frowned at his rice like it owed him data. Maybe he didn't sleep. He's been busy. Nami had seen the news. She also had not seen a version of him that wasn't busy. She didn't know which part was normal for him. She didn't say that. Whatever it is, Kirishima said, we've got his back. He bumped his fist against the table and the table forgave him. Do not dent school property, Ida said, chopping the air once. The bell did its job. They returned trays, said thank yous, and moved back into the river of students. Nami kept pace with Izuku and Achiko without thinking about keeping pace. It just happened. Incident review after lunch meant sitting in a room where the big screen didn't show a movie and listening to Aizawa and Cementos take turns walking them through protocols. It was dry and heavy because it had to be. Nami wrote what mattered. She circled one line. Call for help early is not failure. That was useful. That was the kind of sentence you could put in your pocket. At a break, All Might stood in the back of the room in shadow like a poster you hung wrong. He didn't speak. He watched the class watch footage. He watched Nami not react to something she would have reacted to if she had known she was supposed to. He looked away before she could feel eyes on her and think about it. Questions, Aizawa said. They had them. They always had them. Izuku raised his hand. Ida raised his hand straighter. Nami raised her hand once and asked if the emergency kits had water bottles in them, and if not, could they? Cementos said that was a good version of a small improvement and wrote it down. Aizawa looked like he was collecting proof that she was sensible enough to keep. The day ended the way it had begun, quietly for Nami, louder for everyone else. She stood under the front overhang while people broke into routes like string pulling off a spool. Blue line? Izuku asked, jogging up late and then slowing to polite speed again. Yes, Nami said. You. Same, he said. At first. They walked. Ida called something about crosswalks and reflective gear. Kaminari tripped on absolutely nothing and then recovered with a flourish. Bakugo stomped off in a direction that must have been home because it was the opposite of pleasant. At the station entrance, a man ran toward the stairs with his hand over his mouth, and that walk that said this day had turned on him. Nami's hand was already in her bag. She pulled a plastic bag free, didn't say anything, and held it out as he passed. He took it with a grateful sound, disappeared down the steps, and made unfortunate noises into it. Nami gagged once and then breathed carefully through her sleeve until her body remembered it wasn't about her. You okay? Izuku asked, concerned. I'm okay, she said. I'm a sympathy puker. It's a reflex. I have a lot of bags. He smiled helpless. That's very prepared. Thank you, she said, like he had given her an award. They stood on the train with that polite 2 feet between that said friends without planning. He told her about a training routine he'd made that sorted drills by muscle fatigue so people didn't burn out. She listened. She liked his voice when he cared about something. It steadied her thinking. Can I see it sometime? She asked when he paused for air. Yeah, he said, then corrected. I mean yes. Of course. Okay, she said. The train slowed. He had to switch. See you tomorrow? Tomorrow, she said. Hopped off and waved. She waved back. The doors closed. Nami sat when a seat opened and texted. Used quirk in class. Everyone was kind. Teacher seemed surprised. She waited with her phone in her hand. The train hummed. People got on, got off, carried their evenings home in paper bags. Her father's reply arrived fast. Describe the teacher. Nami typed, tall. But smiles a lot. Nothing came through for a few seconds. But be cautious, my little rain. Some smiles hide teeth. She looked at the words. They felt heavier than the text bubbles around them. She sent back. I'll be careful. She put the phone away. She watched the window watch her back. Her hair lay against her shoulders like it always did, cool and neat. The city outside was silver where the light hit it, darker where it didn't. It wasn't raining, but the air felt ready for it. At her stop, she got off and walked the 3 blocks to the apartment. She set her bag by the table, refilled both bottles, and put one in the fridge because cold tasted cleaner. She wrote a new sticky note. Ask permission for pool training. Humidity test with Izuku, supervised. She stuck it next to yesterday's. Ask Izuku about issue 47. Buy more plastic bags. She opened the window half an inch. The outside air wasn't anything special. It was still good. She sat on the edge of the bed and brushed her hair the way she had done since she could remember. She didn't think about mirrors. She thought about the blue mat, the ball, and the way All Might had paused and then kept going anyway. If anyone asked, she would say, he was surprised because new students are surprising. It was a clean answer. It fit in a sentence. She set her alarm, turned on the small lamp, turned off the big light, and lay down. She didn't put on the rain sounds. Not yet. She listened to the hallway noises instead: footsteps, a door, someone laughing, a microwave beep. Regular sounds from regular lives. She liked those too. Her phone buzzed once more. She checked it. A new message. Remember, ordinary. She replied, yes, father. Then she turned the phone face down, closed her eyes, and let the day settle where it needed to go. Tomorrow she would be early again. Tomorrow she would line her shoes and fill her bottle and keep her voice even and her hands careful. Tomorrow she would ask a question at the right time and write down the answer exactly, because that was useful and ordinary and safe. And if All Might looked at her like he had a thought again, she would not worry about it. She would smile, say thank you and move on. Still water, she reminded herself. Easy to forget. The apartment was quiet. The air held a little moisture. She breathed in. It smelled clean. The morning looked exactly like the last two if you didn't stare at it too long. Nami lined her shoes under the desk, set her bottle back right, checked that her pens clicked, and folded her jacket once over the chair. The room felt bigger when she did things in the same order. She breathed easier. Text out, on my way. Everything ordinary. Reply in almost immediately, listen more than you speak. The world will tell on itself. She read it twice and filed it with the other sentences that sounded like they fit inside a handbook. The train was busier. She stood by the door and watched advertisements slide by. A minute later Izuku squeezed on, spotted her, and carefully navigated 3 people, 2 backpacks, and a suitcase like a polite river finding a new path. Good morning, he said, landing in the space beside her like he'd been assigned it. Good morning. He held up a melon bread still in its wrapper. Do you want half? You can keep it, Nami said, and then saw the way his face fell like she'd rejected a treaty. Unless you have 2. I have 2, he said instantly, producing another from a pocket like a magician. He did not have 2. He was already regretting not having 2. I'll split this one, Nami said. She broke the bread cleanly and handed him the bigger half. He accepted it like she'd saved his life again. Thanks. They ate in quiet, shoulder to shoulder but not touching. The car rocked. The announcements were too cheerful about everything. Izuku pointed out a stray dog on a poster and ended up talking about search and rescue certifications until his stop, then caught himself. Sorry. I started lecturing. I like it, Nami said. It keeps the ride neat. He smiled, relieved. When the doors opened, the crowd spilled out. They spilled with it. Classes did what classes did. Filled time with things you had to remember later. Aizawa did roll call without looking at the clipboard. Present Mike reminded them nouns mattered in sentences. Cementos ran them through a safety drill and said, check your environment 3 different ways because 3 different people needed 3 angles to hear it. Nami wrote the line she liked best. Call for help early is not failure. It sounded useful in a lot of places. Nothing dramatic happened. She preferred it that way. By mid-morning the weather decided on bright with a chance of pretending it had never rained. The air was clean without being cold. At the bell for lunch, the hallway became a tide. Nami let herself carry, then stepped out at the courtyard and followed the path toward the small pond. She had seen it yesterday from a distance and filed it as later. Today it was now. The water was still except for bugs drawing circles on top of circles. She took her tray to a bench 4 meters from the edge. Fruit, cucumber, yogurt, rice. 2 waters. She ate slowly and watched a leaf float toward a drain and stop on the lip like it had changed its mind. Footsteps cut across flooring in the wrong direction for the cafeteria. 2 boys in general studies uniforms drifted out of the shade of the vending machines. They were the type that laughed too loud when no one else was laughing. They looked her over with the face people used when they wanted to look down without getting closer. Hey, one said. You're the transfer. Nami swallowed and wiped her mouth because talking with food in your mouth was impolite. Yes. From where? The other asked, like there was a right answer and it was nowhere good. A private program, she said. I joined 2 weeks late. Paperwork delay. Paperwork, one of them repeated as if she had said magic trick. Right. That's convenient. It was not very convenient, Nami said. We waited a lot. They looked at each other like they had won something. Must be nice, the first said. I don't understand, Nami. He gestured vaguely toward the main building. Hero course. 1. 2 weeks late and you waltz right in. Some of us actually took the exam. I didn't, Nami said. I was transferred. Who'd you pay? The second boy said. Daddy? Mom. My father doesn't spend money, Nami said, straightforward. They laughed, and it wasn't because the sentence was particularly funny, more the way people laugh when something fits their opinion. Sure, the first said. He just makes phone calls. Nami tilted her head slightly. He does make phone calls. So what do you do? The second said. Smile? Keep your hair shiny? Is that your quirk? My hair is like this by itself, Nami said. My quirk is water. She kept her tone even so words didn't slide off it in the wrong direction. You're from general studies. Do you like it? They blinked. That wasn't the script. It's fine, one said defensively. We'll transfer up once the hero course washes out the clowns. I see, Nami said. I hope it goes how you want. The first boy smirked. You don't get to hope. You're already where everyone wants to be. Not everyone, Nami said. They looked at each other again, unsure whether to agree or argue. Some people don't want to be heroes, Nami said. She kept her voice normal, like she was talking about umbrellas. A world full of only heroes doesn't make sense. There would be no one to help. One boy snorted. That's not how it works. I know, Nami said. I'm saying it doesn't make sense. Listen, the other said, taking a step like he was about to teach her something. You don't get how it feels to be stuck there while you skip the line over here. That's jealousy. You should learn the word. I know the word, Nami said. I don't understand wanting to be where someone else is instead of where you are. Yeah, the first said. That's obvious. Then why are you angry? Nami asked. That knocked them off balance for half a second. They recovered with louder voices. We're not angry, the second said. We're annoyed. What's the difference? Nami asked, curious. He frowned. If you have to ask. Nami. Izuku skidded into view like he'd been running and then remembered to stop. He took in the scene fast. Her, the boys, the angle of their shoulders. His hands came up like he was about to block a punch he couldn't see. Everything okay? Yes, Nami said. One of the boys looked him over and found a new target. Oh look, there. Here to write it down in your little notebook? Izuku clenched and unclenched his fists once. You can't talk to her like that. Like what? The other said. Truth. It's not truth, Izuku said, flushing. You don't even know her. And you do, the first said, amused. 3 days and you're her lawyer. I'm her friend, Izuku said, like that mattered, because to him it did. The first boy rolled his eyes. Hero course thinks it's better than everybody. That's not what I said, Izuku started, then tried to start again. Look, if you want to transfer, train. Don't what, Deku? The second took a half step closer. Don't call it what it is. He was still speaking when the air changed. It was the small, precise shift that happened when a storm walked without thunder. Bakugo arrived with the rest of his lunch in his hand and a face like the day had not yet given him someone to bark at, and he was disappointed. He didn't aim for the boys, he just ended up in front of them. The smell of sweat and nitroglycerin moved with him like a personal weather report. You too, he said, as if there was only one brain between them and it was on loan. You got somewhere better to be, or you got time to keep being useless? They braced, like people do when they've been pushy with the wrong dog. We're having a conversation. Yeah, Bakugo said, eating the word. Must be a first. Hey, the first boy started. Bakugo didn't look at him. He looked at Nami. Move. It wasn't loud. It was a directive. He put one palm flat between her shoulder blades and gave her exactly the pressure required to slide her toward Izuku without making her stumble. She didn't flinch, her body remembered the geometry of being repositioned by boys who didn't say please. Thank you, she said, because good manners didn't check the source. Izuku reached instinctively and steadied her elbow. It was automatic, not dramatic. He didn't even realize he'd done it until a second later. Bakugo stepped into the space Nami had left. He ate the last bite of his sandwich like it was background. His eyes were steady and bored. You jealous? He asked the nearest boy. You know what that gets you? Neither answered because suddenly answering was expensive. It gets you loud, Bakugo said. It doesn't get you better. The first boy tried. We're not. You're gonna tell me you worked your butt off and the world didn't notice, Bakugo said. Cool story. Work harder. Some of yous didn't get a teacher picking favorites, the second muttered, side-eyeing Izuku in a way that said he thought he'd found a knife. Bakugo smiled in a way that made the benches think about retiring. If you think anyone in 1A is a favorite, he said, come to training and find out. Silence did the reasonable thing and happened. Bakugo flicked his fingers. Small pops in the air. Not a threat. A punctuation mark. Get lost, he said. Before I make it a lesson. They backed up because bodies did math even when brains hadn't caught up. They turned, muttered something brave that wasn't brave, and left. Bakugo exhaled hard like he'd tasted something sour. He wiped his hand on his pants as if he could remove the interaction. He shot a look at Izuku like, don't start, and at Nami like, don't get used to it. You didn't have to, Izuku tried. Shut up, nerd, Bakugo said, not bothering to add volume. You think morons like that learn from explanations. Izuku sighed, which Bakugo heard as, thank you, and refused to accept. Bakugo glanced at Nami again. Don't stand there and let idiots breathe on you next time. Move. I didn't know they were idiots yet, Nami said. Now you do, Bakugo said. Okay, she said. He stared one more second as if deciding whether to dock points from her life and then stomped off, trailing the feeling of a firework that had elected not to explode. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck. Sorry about him. He's well. Him. He reminds me of my brother, Nami said. Loud. Honest. Izuku considered that. Not words I'd use. But, okay. Nami looked back toward the pond. The leaf had finally gone over the lip. Are you okay? Izuku asked, softer now that there wasn't someone to argue with anymore. I'm okay, Nami said. I just don't understand why they wanted to be where I am instead of where they are. They could like their place. He started, then stopped. That's not how jealousy works. How does it work? He made a face. Badly. They ate what was left of lunch. Achiko arrived halfway through, took in the empty air where something tense had been, and said, Did I miss drama? No, Nami said. Yes, Izuku said. Kirishima jogged over and asked if anyone wanted to see something cool he could do with his elbows. Jiro showed up and said absolutely not to elbows at the table. Ida delivered a speech about hallway disputes that belonged in a handbook much bigger than any of them would read. Life restarted. The afternoon floated. Ciro lent Nami a stapler and she thanked him 3 times and he said, You got it, like he got it. Mineta tripped on nothing. Nami stepped aside in time. Izuku caught a binder that had made a bid for freedom and refiled it in the universe. Aizawa assigned something dull on purpose. Midnight said, You owe me 2 paragraphs, honey, to the whole room and somehow got them to smile while doing it. The building breathed as one organism would breathe if it had to teach children to sit down and do things on a clock. On the way out, Nami remembered to buy more plastic bags at the kiosk near the station. The cashier looked tired. Nami said, Thank you, with the exact amount of attention tired people liked. The cashier gave her a half smile that wasn't for customers. Nami kept it safe in her head for later. Izuku met her on the platform again because coincidence liked routines. He had a notebook open with a page titled Humidity Test Plan, with permission, in capital letters. Do you think Recovery Girl would sign off on this? He asked, showing her a list that was both impressive and worrying. Yes, Nami said. Because you wrote, with permission. He laughed softly. The train arrived. They stepped in. They stood near the same pole, 2 feet apart, hands not touching, attention neatly split between the window and the conversation. Are you sure you're okay? Izuku asked again when the car was loud enough to hide small questions. Yes, Nami said. Thank you for asking. If they say anything again, tell a teacher. Or me. Or Bakugo, I guess. I can handle questions, Nami said. I just don't always know why people ask them. That's fair, he said. Some people ask questions to hurt, not to learn. I only asked to learn, Nami said. I noticed, he said. He got off 2 stations later with a fast wave. She waved back. The doors closed. She watched him disappear up the stairs. The car shuddered forward again. Her phone buzzed. She thought about texting but decided to call. The line clicked. He answered on the second ring as if a second was the most respectful distance between attention and a child. Report, her father said. I had a normal day, Nami said. Mostly. Elaborate. 2 boys from general studies were unkind, she said. They didn't like that I'm in 1A without the entrance exam. Did they touch you? He asked. No, she said. Bakugo moved me first. The pause. One of your classmates? Yes. Describe him. Blonde, Nami said. Loud. Honest. Not a danger to you? No, she said. He's rough, but he's careful. He reminds me of Tamura. Good, her father said, and in that one word was agreement, instruction, and a small pocket of satisfaction. They said things about paying to get in, Nami said, going back to the part that hadn't filed yet, and about wanting to be in the hero course. And you did not understand why this made them unkind, he said, not as a question. I understand the words, Nami said. I don't understand the wanting. Most people are taught to want what others have, he said. It is a story that keeps the market moving and the masses obedient. If they are busy wanting, they are not building. Should I feel sorry for them? Nami asked. You may, he said. But pity and understanding are not the same. Pity will make you step closer. Understanding tells you where to stand. I stood, Nami said. Then you did well. His tone softened a fraction. Were your feelings hurt? No, she said. I was confused. Then it was over. Good girl, he said, warmth without edges. The world will rust around you long before it changes you. She nodded, even though he couldn't see it. Okay. Eat, he said. Press. Tomorrow be ordinary. Okay, Nami said. Good night. Good night, little rain. She ended the call and slid the phone into her pocket. The train rattled. The station announcements said words in a cheerful voice. Someone yawned. Someone else laughed into their sleeve. The whole city seemed to agree on being busy. At her stop, she walked the 3 blocks home. She hung her jacket on the back of the chair, set her bag down, lined up the bottles, opened the window half an inch. The air smelled faintly like the leftover of weather, not enough to be called rain, enough to be called clean. She wrote a sticky note. Ask permission for humidity test. Thank Bakugo, maybe. She stuck it next to the others. The wall was starting to look like a plan. Dinner was simple. She ate at the small table and thought of nothing while chewing, which was nice. She washed the plate, set it in the rack, dried her hands completely because paper should never meet damp fingers. She brushed her hair in long strokes until it lay perfectly the way it always did, and then she didn't touch it. She lay down and didn't put on any sounds. She listened to the building instead. Pipes, feet, someone's television at a respectable volume. Normal noises from ordinary lives. This was what she liked best, routine that made everything fall into rows. Tomorrow she would do it again. If someone asked her about jealousy, she would say, I don't want to be where someone else is. I'm where I am. It felt correct. It felt like a full sentence. She turned off the lamp and let the dark be what it was. Somewhere far off, the sky made up its mind. It would probably rain later. She smiled at the idea the way people smiled at good bread. Then she slept. Nami woke before her alarm and let the ceiling come into focus. The apartment was still. She could hear the building breathing, pipes, a far elevator, someone's kettle. She did the same thing she always did, lined her shoes by the door, brushed her hair in long strokes until the strands lay in quiet lines, checked her water bottles, checked her pens, checked that she checked. Text out, going early. Everything ordinary. Reply, the water belongs to you, not them. Stay unnoticed. She read it twice. She wasn't sure if that meant don't show off or don't let them take credit. It probably meant both. She put the phone away. The train was a little less crowded than yesterday. Izuku hopped on halfway through the line like he had missed 3 other cars for reasons that didn't matter anymore. He spotted her and wove over like he'd been assigned her orbit. "Good morning," he said, slightly out of breath. "Sorry, stairs, hello." "Good morning," Nami said. "Did you talk to Recovery Girl?" "Yeah, yes." He held up a folded paper like a permission slip for a field trip. "We have supervised access to the training pool after classes for, controlled quirk observation." Aizawa signed it. Recovery Girl said if we pass out she gets to say, "I told you so." She said it in a nice way. "That's good," Nami said. He smiled, nervous and happy at once. "I am also emailed a copy to the office so nobody thinks we're sneaking in. Not that we would. But just in case." "Okay," Nami said. "I'll bring extra towels." He looked oddly relieved, like towels had been the one thing he couldn't solve with a form. The train rocked. A kid on the other side did multiplication facts too loud. Izuku mouthed the answers with him until they both got to 9 and then pretended they hadn't. The first half of the day happened without any dramatic declarations from the universe. Aizawa gave them a pop question that wasn't a quiz but would be treated as one later. Present Mike made a pun about modal verbs that hurt and then apologized for hurting them. English meant sentence diagrams. Math meant pretending graphs were exciting. Nami wrote down the parts that would be useful if someone woke her up in the middle of the night and asked. At lunch, Izuku unfolded his notebook like a map. "Okay," he said, tapping the lines. "Baseline tests, surface tension shaping, displacement without spill, partial vapor capture, microcurrent guidance. Then we can do endurance only if Recovery Girl says it's fine then, if you're up for it, shallow immersion inside a stable air pocket. If that's okay. If it's not okay, we stop. If I say any of this too fast, tell me to breathe." "I'll tell you," Nami said. "It sounds fine." Ida sat down across from them mid-handshop. "I support this initiative with one caveat: safety first, last, and always. And proper documentation. Please include me in the post-experiment report." "There's a report?" Izuku said, eyes bright like that was a reward. "There will be," Ida said. Achiko set her tray down with a grin. "If you two drown, I'm going to be very mad." "We aren't going to drown," Izuku said, panicking preemptively. "It's supervised. Look, I have signatures." She glanced at the paper and then at Nami. "Have fun," she said. "And don't let him mutter underwater. He'll swallow the pool." "I won't," Izuku said, offended on behalf of his airways. Bakugo passed their table, gave Izuku a suspicious look like he could smell a plan, and kept walking. Kirishima stopped long enough to say, "Pool? Cool," and then remembered he had to get to class. The bell moved them like a tide again. On the way to afternoon PRDIS, Nami texted. "Staying late for training. With supervision. Reply, do not become a spectacle." She typed, "I'll be ordinary." She meant it. After classes, the gym's west wall turned the windows into bars of blue. The pool room hummed the way water rooms do, soft echo, tile smell, machines doing invisible work. Recovery Girl sat on the bleachers with a magazine and a lollipop that matched nothing. Aizawa stood by the door, scarf looped like a patient snake, eyes at half-mast. "Permission," Recovery Girl said, holding out a clipboard without looking at it or them, the way only people who knew everything already could. Izuku handed over the signed form with 2 hands. She put it on the bench beside her without checking. "Boundaries," Aizawa said. "No showboating. No pushing limits. If I say out, you get out. If you feel faint, you sit. You drown, you fail." "We won't drown," Izuku and Nami said at the same time. Izuku cut his eyes at her, surprised he wasn't the only one who knew how to mean it like a rule. Aizawa nodded. 15 minutes baseline. Then 5 to 10 for control test. Done by 5. "Yes, sir," Izuku said. Nami nodded. They sat on the bench and changed shoes. For nothing, there wasn't much to change. Nami took off her loafers and socks, folded them together, and set them under the bench. She rolled her uniform sleeves to the elbow and secured her hair with a thin clip at the nape of her neck. Wet footprints would be obvious, but she didn't mind. She stepped to the edge. Izuku hovered just behind, notebook open, Pencil already moving. If it's easier in bare feet, do that. I mean, if you want. I'm not ordering. Sorry. You already did. It's easier, Nami said. The water liked skin better than shoes. That made sense to her. She stepped her toes into the pool and felt the change in weight, how the water answered, how it waited. Start with surface tension? Izuku asked, settling into his data voice. It calmed him. It calmed her. Nami lifted her right hand. The surface domed up under her palm without breaking. She pressed once, lightly, and the dome held. Izuku crouched, eyes level with the waterline. That's wild, he whispered. No splashing at all. How are you distributing? Sorry. Talking to myself. He scribbled a note. Edge control? She moved the dome sideways. The water followed in a line, thin as a ribbon. It looked like glass and behaved like something alive that was also polite. Temperature variance? He asked. Nami nodded and breathed, not too deep, not too shallow. A light fog braided above the surface, drifted and faded. She pulled vapor down into a little sphere, held it for 3 seconds, then let it go. Izuku laughed softly, delighted. You're making it look easy. It is here, Nami said. She glanced up at the big vents. The air is good. He made a note to look up the humidity levels for the gym and the pool specifically. He was already planning a table. She could see it on his face. Microcurrent guidance? He said. She pointed at a leaf that had fallen near the gutter and drew it toward her with a current no one could see. It slid in a neat path and stopped against the tile. She picked it up and set it on the bench. Leaves shouldn't swim. Recovery Girl turned the page of her magazine. Izawa checked his phone without looking down. Endurance? Izuku asked. He looked to Aizawa. For minutes, Aizawa said. No longer. Nami nodded. Okay. Izuku had brought a stopwatch. Of course he had. Ready? Yes. Go. She raised her hands and spread the surface like a sheet. She moved it left, right, kept it steady, kept it easy, kept it boring. The minutes ticked. She didn't show off. Izuku's pencil never stopped. Recovery Girl's lollipop got shorter. Aizawa's eyes didn't change shape. 4, Izuku said. Stop. Nami let the water fall back into itself. The pool barely rippled. Any fatigue? Recovery Girl called, not looking up from a page with an ad for sensible shoes. No ma'am, Nami said. Hydrate anyway. Nami took a sip. Izuku did too, out of solidarity and habit. Aizawa pushed off the wall. You've proven you won't break the pool, he said. You have 10 minutes for whatever you asked permission for. Nothing stupid. I'll be in the hall. Do not make me come back in here for an emergency. Yes, sir, Izuku said. Nami nodded again. Aizawa left, door swinging once, then settling. Recovery Girl stayed, but her reading glasses slipped down her nose, and she didn't fix them. Izuku looked at Nami like he was equal parts scientist and child. Shallow immersion? Nami glanced at Recovery Girl. The old woman liked her lollipop and pretended to be very invested in an article. Nami turned back to Izuku. I'd like to show you something, she said. He blinked. Okay. Take my hands, she said. And please trust me. His heartbeat jumped visible in his throat. Okay. He wiped his palms on his slacks, then offered them. His grip was warm and careful. He squeezed once like he was making sure she was there. Nami's hands were cool. Not cold. She held on like she held everything she didn't want to break, with attention instead of force. Don't pull away, she said calm. I won't. Step with me. They stepped forward. The water didn't splash. It lifted under their feet like a path had been laid just below the surface and the pool had been waiting for them to find it. Izuku inhaled on instinct, then realized the air didn't change. It feels, he started, then stopped because he didn't have a word that wasn't going to be too big. Nami didn't try to give him a word. She took another small step, and the water welcomed their ankles, then their shins. The surface curved around them, closing without touching. The sounds from the room thinned. The hum of the pumps slowed to something like a heartbeat and nothing like it at all. He tightened his hands for a second. She didn't correct him. He loosened them on his own. The light from the windows broke into strips and slid down the curved shell around them, moving like fish without bodies. The world above skewed into an abstract ceiling of something he would have drawn as wavering lines and never had seen from this angle. How are you compressing the water, or he cut himself off? Sorry, never mind. It's just amazing. It likes being held, Nami said. That's not how physics, he started, then let himself smile. I know what you mean. They went lower. It wasn't heavy. It wasn't light. It was exactly the right amount of being somewhere they weren't supposed to be while being allowed. Izuku kept looking up, then around, then at her hands like he needed to confirm that his skin still existed. Nami watched his face. He moved between awe and calculation and back to awe. It was nice to see both. At the tiled floor of the deep end, the color shifted to a stronger blue. Nami eased the air pocket wider with a small twist of her wrists. The shell flexed without complaint, like taffy that had learned manners. You can sit, she said. He hesitated only because the bottom looked like it should be slippery. Then he sat and it was fine. He exhaled and laughed once because sometimes your lungs tell the truth before your brain does. Nami folded down across from him, their knees a hand's width apart. The bubble hummed the way quiet places hum, no echo, just presence. His hair drifted a little from the air movement inside their small weather system. Her hair lay the way it always did, only more honest. Above them, the water turned the gym lights into strips of gold. A round lifeguard float on the far wall looked like a coin. The ladder warped into a silver ribbon. Nothing else mattered. It's beautiful down here, he said, voice lower because loud didn't fit. I know, Nami said, as if she'd been here 100 times, and maybe she had in different ways. No one's ever shown me something like this, he said. He looked up again, then back at her, and it occurred to him he was seeing her in the environment that made sense to her. He was the visitor. I've never had anyone to show, she said. It wasn't dramatic. It was a line item. He swallowed. Thank you. For this. He meant the oxygen and the trust. He didn't know how to split them into separate sentences. You're welcome, she said. They sat. The minutes didn't stack so much as spread out. Izuku's shoulders slowly dropped from their habitual position by his ears. He breathed in time with the pump's distant thrum. He looked like himself without all the static. Nami's hands rested on her knees, palms up, fingers relaxed. She watched his eyes dart when light shifted. She watched his mouth move when he was about to ask a question and then didn't. She watched his chest rise and fall and thought, he didn't run away. She didn't tell herself what that meant. She just wrote it down inside. He didn't run. Do you ever get scared of it? He asked after a while, nodding toward everything around them. No, she said. I get scared of other things. Like loud arguments, small rooms, people who stopped talking when they were not done yet. She thought, bad smells. He almost laughed, then didn't, because she wasn't joking. Same. What about you? She asked. Failing, he said, honest the way he always was when asked directly. Letting people down. Missing something I shouldn't miss. You didn't miss this, she said. He met her eyes and then looked away again, embarrassed like saying thank you would make too much noise, and popped the bubble. Should we go up? She asked after another long minute. Yeah, he said. Before Aizawa our peers. She smiled. The bubble trembled like it found that funny. She took his hands again, lighter this time. He stood without wobbling. They rose slowly, not to show off, just to make the ending match the beginning. The color shifted from deeper blue to pool blue to the paler version that meant air was close. The shell thinned, then opened. The surface broke around their shoulders like a curtain being pulled aside, not to stop a show but to remind you the show had always been here. Air felt noisy. Izuku blinked and breathed like he'd been holding his breath and then realized he hadn't. He wiped his face out of habit even though it was almost dry. He looked for a word and couldn't find one he liked. Wow. Okay, Nami said, wringing the end of her sleeve once. We should towel the deck. Right? He said, as if cleaning up were the stamp that made a miracle appropriate. They stepped to the bench. Nami pulled out 2 towels. Izuku took one gratefully and kept drying even after there was nothing left to dry. Recovery Girl was closer than she had been a few minutes ago. She was not on the bench with the magazine. She was at the edge of the bleacher with her elbows on her knees, lollipop stem pointing like a conductor's baton. "Fun?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," Izuku said. "Good," she said. "Do it again and I'll charge you per minute." She winked to take the sting out of a joke that had no sting. Aizawa pushed the door open with his shoulder and looked at the clock first, then at them. "Done." "Yes," Nami said. "Any fainting?" "No," Izuku said. "Then you're done." He pointed at the wet footprints that were barely footprints. "Floor." "We're wiping," Izuku said, already on hands and knees with a towel. Nami joined him. They moved like people who had mopped before, which felt correct. Aizawa watched just long enough to be sure wiping was, in fact, occurring. 5 minutes, he said. Then out. He left again. Recovery Girl stood and stretched her back in the way older backs stretch when they're telling you they exist. She stuck the lollipop in her cheek, gathered her magazine, and followed Aizawa without hurrying. Izuku finished one strip. Nami finished the next. The floor looked exactly the same as it had before they started, which meant they had done it right. "Thank you," Izuku said again, softer now that the room was empty. "You're welcome," Nami said. She folded the towels into halves and then into quarters and set them on the bench. "Can I?" he started, then stopped. "Can I write this down?" "Not the secret part. But what you can do in general." "You can write it," Nami said. "Don't write the bottom." He nodded. "I won't." They put their shoes back on. Nami smoothed her socks at the toes because seams could ruin a walk if you didn't fix them now. Izuku tucked his notebook under his arm like a prized possession that was also a limb. "Do you want to?" he tried, gesturing toward the exit and then toward the general concept of leaving. "Yes," Nami said. "Blue line." "Blue line," he echoed. The hall was quieter than usual this time of day. Most clubs had pulled their members away. They passed a broom closet where somebody was arguing softly about paint and a vending machine that had sold out of the good chips. The sky looked more gray than blue out the windows, like it had been considering options all day and finally chosen. At the station, they landed in their usual spot like it had been waiting for them there. Izuku looked like he wanted to say 5 different things and was testing each one for feasibility. Today was, he started. "Good," Nami said. "I liked it." He nodded, happy because she was happy. "Me too." The train pulled in. Doors slid open. They stepped on 2 feet of polite space. The world outside the glass did what it did. After a minute, Izuku said, "I made a list of questions for next time," and handed her a page like a peace offering. She looked at the first 3 lines. Does temperature change affect your control speed? Can you separate dissolved solids by preference? How long can you maintain a stable air pocket without fatigue? "Okay," Nami said. "We'll ask Recovery Girl." He smiled like he'd been given permission to breathe. "Yeah." His stop came too soon. He made a face like he'd lost track of time and didn't regret it. "See you tomorrow?" "Tomorrow," Nami said. He hopped off. He waved. She waved back. The doors closed. He ran up the stairs 2 at a time and disappeared. Nami sat when a seat opened and texted. "Training finished. Baseline testing complete. I showed something small to a classmate." The typing bubble appeared and stayed a while. Then, "Did you remain unseen?" Yes, she wrote. "Only him." Another long wait. Then, "Be careful what you share, little rain. Even the calmest surface hides depth." She typed, "I'll be careful." She put the phone away and watched the window, which watched her back as windows do when you let them. The apartment smelled the same as always, clean, faintly like the soap she liked. She hung her jacket, set her bottles to refill, and put the towels over the chair to dry. She wrote on a new sticky note. Ask RG, endurance limit, air pocket. Ask Aizawa, pool hours, supervised. Bring snacks for Izuku, he forgets. She stuck it next to the others. The square of yellow looked like its own kind of plan. She ate simple food. She washed the dish and dried it fully. She brushed her hair and let it lay where it wanted. She opened the window half an inch to let in the weather's opinion. The night outside was blue-gray and ordinary. She liked it that way. Her phone buzzed once. A short line. Good work. Ordinary is a shield. She typed, yes, father. She didn't turn on rain sounds yet. She lay down and listened to the building. Steps, a laugh, a door, a bit of music. She closed her eyes and saw the blue of the pool again, the gold strips of light, Izuku's face when he realized he could breathe where he hadn't expected to. He didn't run away, she thought, and let the thought sit. She turned onto her side and let sleep do its job. Outside, the sky finally decided. A light rain started somewhere over the city, quiet enough that only people listening for it would notice. Friday rolled into Saturday without any ceremony. Nami finished her homework, stacked her notebooks in a square, and put a sticky note on the top that read done because it felt final. Text out, weekend. May I visit brother? Reply came as if he'd been waiting. Yes. Address attached. Put up. Treat them as a household of guests. She read that twice. Household of guests. Politeness language. She packed light. Toothbrush, a change of clothes, 2 water bottles, Band-Aids, mints, a small bottle of hand gel, 3 plastic bags folded into squares, extra hair tie, a packet of alcohol wipes, and a pouch of snacks, melon gummies, rice crackers. Added a note for herself and left it on the table. Turn off stove, was never on. Window closed half an inch. It was early evening. The city had settled into that steady noise that felt like a big animal breathing. She pulled up her hood, checked the address again, and took the blue line. The train let her off near a block where the streetlights were reliable and the sidewalks weren't. The bar didn't have a name outside, just a sign that used to spell something. The door's paint had ideas about leaving. She liked the hinge, it was clean. Someone cared. She knocked once, not loud. The door opened into dark and fog that kept its shape. Yellow eyes behind that fog took her in head to toe like a person reading a label. You must be the guest, Kurogiri said. Yes, sir, Nami said. Nami Shigarame. I brought snacks. He paused at sir, not offended, just briefly unsure what to do with it. Please come in, he said, stepping aside. The mist moved with him like a curtain. Inside smelled like smoke and disinfectant arguing. Nami's nose wrinkled. Not because smoke was evil, it was just bad at sharing air. She pressed her sleeve to her nose for 1 second and breathed through it. Better. Who is it? Came a voice from the back booth, scratchy and wary. Family, Kurogiri said. Tamura slouched in his seat with his hood up and his knees spread like a barricade against the world. His hand hovered near his neck the way it did when he was thinking too fast. He saw her and his posture changed in 2 steps you wouldn't catch if you didn't know him. Chin up, eyes softer, then back to slouch like he hadn't moved. Don't call ahead, or anything, he said, already annoyed at an event he had approved. I asked permission, Nami said, because she had. She crossed the room and hugged him before he could give permission for that. He froze, stiff, and then his free hand patted her shoulder twice like she might detonate if he did a third. You grew, he said. You didn't, she said, cheerful. Shut up, he said, without heat. She slid into the booth. He pulled the menu closer as if that would make it useful. It had 3 items. She put her backpack on the floor and unzipped the snacks pouch. Don't feed the locals, Tamura said. They're not fish, Nami said. They're people. Kurogiri arrived with 2 glasses of water without being asked. Nami almost said thank you twice, once to him, once to whomever trained him to notice. She stopped at one. Thank you. He inclined his head. You're welcome. Who's this? A voice asked from 2 stools over, flat and amused in a tired way. Dabi leaned, elbows on the bar, blue fire flickering on his fingers like a boredom tick. He looked like a person who had seen the sun once and decided it wasn't his thing. The smoke pushed toward Nami and she breathed through her sleeve again and let her face settle back to normal before she spoke. Nami, she said. Tamura's sister. Not actually, Dabi said, because precision mattered when you wanted it to. Actually, Tamura said, not for the first time in his life contradicting himself on purpose. Family's family. A blur of blonde and cheer arrived at Nami's shoulder like a small hurricane. Toga was suddenly there, chin on Nami's shoulder, eyes bright. "You're so cute," Toga said. "Are you a villain too?" "No," Nami said. "I'm a student." "You a?" Dabi asked, grinning like it was a punchline. He looked her over. "Hero uniform girl visits villain bar. Cute." "She's undercover," Tamura said. "I'm studying," Nami corrected. "Same thing," Dabi muttered, pleased either way. Spinner sat at the corner table, cleaning his sword with care, eyes flicking up like he didn't want to be rude. "She looks polite," he said. "Weird fit for us." "I like polite," Twice called from a stool, raising a hand. "Polite is nice." Then he flinched and put the hand down. "Polite means you're hiding something." He brightened again. "Hide something good." "She's polite because she is," Tamura said, as if that settled it. It did. Kurogiri set a bowl of bar snacks on the table, rice crackers, dried peas, unknown crunchy shapes. Nami slid her pouch open and added her own stack of rice crackers next to it. "For sharing," she said. Toga gasped like someone had proposed. "She brought snacks." "She brought snacks," Twice confirmed, emotional. Dabi snorted a laugh and killed his flame with a small twist. Smoke curled and then faded. He didn't look at Nami, but he turned his head so the last of it drifted away from her. Kurogiri cracked a window with a soundless portal. The air improved by 30%. Nami drank her water and set the glass down carefully. "I'm staying for the weekend," she said. "If that's okay." "It's your house," Tamura said, which was not true, but close enough. "Guest room is ready," Kurogiri said. "Sheets fresh. Towels on the chair." "Thank you," Nami said, meaning it. Toga slid into the booth beside her like a cat that had chosen a lap. "Tell me about school," she said, eager. "Do you wear lip gloss? Do you have a crush? Do you like anyone enough to drink them?" "No," Nami said, steady. "No lip gloss. No drinking people. I have friends." "Friends are boring unless they bleed nice," Toga said with authority. "Don't say that to my sister," Tamura said. Toga ignored him expertly. "Tell me about your friends." Nami thought. "Achiko. She's kind and laughs. Tenya. He chops the air when he talks. Kirishima. He says, 'man,' before sentences. She says what she means. Izuku. He has a lot of notebooks." Tamura's mouth did something between a smirk and a sulk at that last name. "Careful," he said. "Kids like that turn their notebooks on you." "He's nice," Nami said. "He thinks before he decides. He brings extra water on accident." Dabi tapped a cigarette out of habit, then put it back because the window was open and the girl was small and the mist butler was watching. "You're going to break a lot of hearts by saying things like that in that tone," he said. "I'm not trying to," Nami said. "Exactly," he said. "Tell me more," Toga insisted. "Tell me something cute. Tell me your favorite smell. Tell me if you like girls." "I like the smell of rain," Nami said. "And citrus. And clean shirts. I like girls and boys. I like steady people." Toga kicked her legs, delighted. "Oh, I like you." "Don't like her too much," Tamura said. "She's busy." "I'm never too busy for a friend," Nami said, which made Kurogiri glance at her with an expression that might have been parental worry if he had a face. Tamura groaned. "Why did you get all the nice parts?" "You can be nice," Nami said. "You are with me." He made a face like you make when someone takes your picture without asking. "Shut up," he said, again without heat. "Show me your quirk," Toga said, head tilted. "Pretty please? Just a little? I won't drink it." Nami held out her hand. A small sphere of water lifted above her palm, clear and neat. It caught the bar's weak light and made it better. Toga reached, caught herself, and hovered her finger near it like a child meeting a fish. "It's like a bubble," Toga whispered. "It's water," Nami said. "You can touch it." Toga poked the sphere and giggled when it bulged and did not break. Twice clapped once, quietly, as if applause might scare it. "It's like rain you can hold," Spinner said, unexpectedly thoughtful. "It is," Nami agreed. "You're going to get us all sentimental," Dabi said, bored with his own interest. Kurojiri set a mug of tea on the table in front of Nami, steam rising soft. Something gentler on the nose, he said. Thank you, Nami said, relief honest. She cupped the mug in both hands and inhaled. Chamomile, maybe, and something else. The smoke smell stopped trying to win. Okay, Toga said, bouncing again. Friends. Let's be friends. But not the drink kind. The cute kind. Okay, Nami said. She reached into her pouch and pulled out the small packet of alcohol wipes. She tore one open and passed it to Toga. Clean your finger. Toga stared at the wipe. Why? Hygiene, Nami said. Toga wiped, face scrunched. Smells like hospitals. I don't like the smell either, Nami said. Quick is fine. Toga cleaned her fingertip with the patience of someone doing a task just to get to the fun. Nami cleaned her own. Then she took the small sewing pin from her sleeve cuff, the one she kept for emergencies, and looked at Toga. This is a blood bond, Nami said. Not for drinking. For choosing. Toga's eyes were huge. Okay. Nami pricked the side of her own fingertip, quick and neat. She winced because that was honest. Toga did the same to herself, flinching and then laughing at her own flinch. We press, Nami said. Only a second. They pressed fingerprints together. One tiny red dot met another. The contact stung and then joined and then vanished. Nami pulled a clean drop of water from the air and rolled it across both fingertips. The sting faded. Now it's ours, Nami said. Friends on purpose. Toga's smile went wild and bright. Tamura, she's my friend, she announced, as if he had the authority to approve it. Congratulations, he said, flat like a stamp. Twice swept his hands outward like an MC. A ceremony. A real one. Nobody died. Spinner nodded, satisfied. Better than stealing hair, he said under his breath. Dabi watched Nami's hands the way people watch fire and remember oceans. Blood doesn't mean what people think it means, he said. You did something better. I don't like hurting people, Nami said. Friends shouldn't require it. Tell that to your father, Dabi said, amused. I tell him anything I want, Nami said, simple. She didn't say, and I also do what he says. Tamura had gone quiet in a way he did when he was listening on purpose. He scratched at his wrist, then stopped. You're eating, he said, noticing her plate had moved very little. I'm talking, Nami said. You can do both. Okay, Nami said, and ate a rice cracker because sometimes doing what he said made his shoulders drop a centimeter. The evening stretched. Twice told a joke that wasn't very good and was somehow perfect. Spinner argued with the TV about a documentary that didn't respect lizards. Dabi lit a small flame to watch it and then killed it to be polite. Kurojiri ran the bar the way ships are run and kitchens are run and eventually the world is run. Quietly, with attention. Nami told Tamura about UA the way little sisters do. The food is good. The hallways are loud but not mean. My teacher sleeps in class but still hears things. Present Mike makes puns. Ida moves like a train. Kirishima is a human encouragement poster. Bakugo is. Bakugo. Watch him, Tamura said. I do, Nami said. He watches me too. We are fine. She told him about the pool and the blue quiet and the safe bubble because she wasn't hiding that from him. He listened without interrupting. Dabi listened without admitting it. And Midoriya? Tamura asked, voice sliding into a register he used for names he wanted to remember. He talks fast, Nami said. He is careful. He is kind to me. Kind, Tamura repeated, sour. Careful can be a mask. Maybe, Nami said. He wears his on the outside. Tamura grunted. Don't get attached. I get attached to good things that can leave, Nami said. It's okay if they do. Kurojiri dried a glass that did not need drying and looked away like he had been caught listening on purpose. Toga leaned back into Nami's side as if this booth was now the safest place she'd ever been. Tell him about the blood bond, she said. Tamura stared at their fingertips. Why, he said. It's nicer than biting, Toga said. He closed his eyes. Great. Now there's rituals. It's small, Nami said. It makes sense. He opened his eyes again and looked at her straight. That didn't happen often. You like it there? He said. It wasn't a challenge. Yes, Nami said. It's loud but it's good. They don't hurt each other. Yet, he said. They try not to, she said. Trying matters. He made a noise that had no dictionary. He reached out and put his hand on top of her head like he was checking if she had a fever. He kept it there one count longer than he liked admitting to. Get some sleep, he said. Don't let Toga paint your nails. She'll stab you by accident. I will not, Toga protested, offended. On purpose, maybe. See, Tamura said. Nami finished her water and set the glass down with no noise. Where am I sleeping? Kurogyari gestured toward a short hallway. Second door. Sheets are clean. The heater clicks, it's normal. Thank you, Nami said. She slid out of the booth. Toga grabbed her wrist and looked up at her with sudden seriousness that didn't get a lot of sunlight. We're really friends, Toga said, checking. Yes, Nami said. On purpose. Toga nodded. Okay. She let go. Nami took her bag and stepped down the hall. The room was small, tidy, freshly made. The towel on the chair was folded in a way that said someone had tried. She liked it very much. She placed her bag on the chair, set one bottle on the nightstand, and arranged her clothes in the drawer because even if she was only there 2 nights, drawers were 4. Belonging. She texted. Arrived. Everyone is kind. Reply. That word again. Kindness dulls knives. Knives are for cooking, she typed. No reply came. She put the phone down, washed her face, brushed her hair with the soft brush she carried, and listened. The bar's murmur softened. Twice laughed in 2 voices and then in one. Dabi flicked a lighter and shut it. Spinner told the TV to read. Tamura's chair scraped the floor in a way that meant finally going to bed. Kurogyari rinsed out the sink quietly. Nami turned off the overhead and turned on the small lamp. She lay down and left the door cracked exactly 2 inches. She liked sound that told her where everyone was. The mattress was firm. The pillow was new. The heater clicked once and did not explode. She closed her eyes and watched the week line up. Classroom, All Might's pause, cafeteria, the boys with jealousy, Bakugo's shove, blue water at the bottom of the pool, Izuku's hands, the bar, Toga's grin, Tamura's hand on her head. Her phone buzzed once before midnight. Are you settled? Yes, she typed. Sleeping now. Listen more than you speak. I always do, she wrote. She put the phone face down and let the quiet fill in the corners. She did not put on rain sounds. The building had enough. Sunday morning in a villain bar was quieter than she expected. Kurogyari had already made coffee for the ones who drank it and hot water for the ones who didn't. Nami padded in with her hood down and her socks on and said good morning to the room like it was a person. Morning, Spinner said, polite because she was. Morning, twice said, voice split and then together. Sleep okay? Yes, Nami said. Thank you. Toga's on the roof, Kurogyari said. She said something about sun. I'll say hi, Nami said. She carried her water to the roof. The air had that legal cool of late morning, not hot, not indecisive. Toga sat on the edge with her legs swinging and her chin in her hand, staring at nothing and everything. Hi, Nami said. Hi, Toga said without turning. Do you have snacks? Yes, Nami said, sitting and setting the pouch between them. Rice crackers. Toga accepted one like a communion. Thanks. She chewed, then sighed. Do you ever feel like everyone else got a script and you got the wrong one? I was given a script, Nami said. I'm good at lines. Toga laughed. Figures. She leaned her head on Nami's shoulder without asking and without apology. You smell clean. Like rain. I like it. I like your hair, Nami said. It looks like you cut it yourself and it still came out nice. Toga cackled. I did. With kitchen scissors. She sobered a little. Don't let them make you mean. They won't, Nami said. They will try, Toga said. People don't like girls who smile like that. Then they can look away, Nami said. Toga considered that. Okay, she said. Good plan. They sat until the rooftop warmth nudged them back downstairs. Tamura had taken over the big couch with a blanket like a territorial cat. Dabi had discovered that if he put his cigarette near Kurojire's mist, the smoke vanished faster, and now he was doing it on purpose like a science experiment. Twice had lost a sock and was narrating its absence. Spinner had found a new documentary to argue with. It looked like home if you didn't ask questions. Nami spent the rest of the day doing small things, sweeping a corner that kept gathering dust because of the door, refilling the water jug, folding the throw blanket the right way, making a list of groceries that would make bar food less of a dare. No one told her to stop. No one told her to do it. She did it because it made the room friendlier, and she believed rooms noticed. She sat with Tamura at the counter between lunch and nothing. "You're not scared of them," he said, nodding toward the general mess of people who used to be scary in newspapers and were now just people. "No," Nami said. "You're not either." He shrugged. "I'm meaner than they are." "You're tired," Nami said. He watched the line of the counter for a while. "Maybe," he said, which from him was nearly yes. "Do you need anything?" she asked. He snorted. "Yeah. Everything." "I have a bandage," she offered, because sometimes small was all you could give. He smiled without showing his teeth. "Keep it," he said. "You'll need it first." She finished her water. "I like it here," she said. "You like everywhere," he said. "That's not true," she said. "I don't like hospitals. Or garbage rooms. Or the inside of elevators that stop between floors." "Fair," he said. He pushed the bowl of bar snacks toward her with one finger. "You get weird when you forget." "Okay," she said, and ate one dried pea that tasted like salt and something that used to be. That night, she texted heading back Monday morning and got a thumbs up that wasn't a thumbs up, because he never used emojis. She slept again with the door cracked 2 inches and the heater clicking twice and the sound of people who were dangerous being quiet around someone small. Monday morning had the same shape as Saturday night in reverse. She said her goodbyes in the polite order: Kurojire first, with a bow and a thank you for the room, Spinner next, with a nod, twice with a wave and a, we are friends unless we're enemies, and we're not enemies, Dabi with a look that was less mean than his mouth, Toga with a quick hug and a promise of more blood bond rituals that did not involve punctures. Tamura walked her to the door because he always pretended not to when he did. He put his hand on the doorframe instead of on her shoulder and scowled at the street like it might backtalk. "You text when you get there," he said. "I will," Nami said. "And don't tell your friends stupid things about me." "I never say stupid things," she said. He snorted. "You say true things." "That's worse." She leaned in before he could move and kissed his cheek. He made a sound like a static burst and endured it. "Goodbye, brother," she said. "Bye, brat," he said, and then added, like something pulled it out of him, "Stay safe." "You too," she said. She pulled up her hood and walked out into the morning. The air was cool and fine. The train was on time. She sat by the window and let the weekend sit beside her like another passenger. Text out, heading back. Weekend was ordinary. Everyone is well. Reply, good. Keep your balance. The world is tilted. She watched the city slide by and knew he wasn't wrong. She also knew she could walk on a tilted surface without falling if she watched her feet and didn't rush. At the apartment, she set down her bag, lined her shoes, checked her pens, poured water into both bottles, and added a new sticky note. Bring rice crackers next time. He asked Toga what color she likes, safe nail polish. Laundry. She put the kettle on, not because she needed tea, but because a kettle made a sound she liked. She opened the window half an inch. The air smelled like Monday and laundry rooms and someone making curry 2 floors down. Her phone buzzed once more. Report on UA when convenient. Tomorrow night, she typed. Listen more than you speak. Okay, she wrote. I'm good at that. She turned off the kettle before it whistled and stood still for a full minute, because stillness was the part of the day that set the other part straight. Then she moved again. Tomorrow would come fast. She would be early. She would be ordinary. She would ask a question and write down the answer. She would tell Toga's name to the part of her memory that kept good things and let them visit as long as they could. The room was quiet in hers. The weekend went where weekends go, not away, just into the place that makes weekdays make sense. Monday smelled like laundry water and bus brakes. Nami stood where she always stood on the platform and watched the blue line pull in. Same train, same car, same quiet spot by the door. The routine made her brain line up. Izuku slipped in as the doors dinged, scanning the car with that eager, frantic focus like he was trying to spot a friend and a fire at the same time. He saw her and softened. Then he did a tiny double take he didn't mean to do. "Morning," he said, and then, because it happened automatically, "Sorry, good morning." "Good morning," Nami said. He looked at her face, then down to the way her blazer hung a little looser, then back up fast so it wouldn't look like looking. "Are you okay? You look kind of tired." "I'm fine," Nami said, honest, not defensive. "I spent the weekend with my brother. He doesn't cook much." "Oh," he said, with a worry that wore politeness like a coat. "You could have texted me. My mom always makes too much. I could have brought leftovers." "That's kind," Nami said, meaning it. "I'll tell you next time." He nodded, relief that she hadn't rejected the idea outright. The train rocked. An ad for vitamin water cheerfully lied about something. He fumbled in his bag and produced a convenience store bun like a magic trick that had never been magic. "Do you want?" "Yes," Nami said, because saying yes would make him relax. He broke it and handed her half. They ate standing up with their shoulders not touching, the way commuters do when they know they won't fall. "You, Izuku said after a minute, "look hydrated though." "I'm always hydrated," Nami said, not joking. "I know," he said half grin. "I can tell." They rode. The doors opened on the UA station and they got carried along with the others. The campus gate looked the same. The air looked the same. There wasn't a test posted, so it counted as a good morning. Aizawa ran homeroom with the energy of someone who had won an argument in his dreams and was now bored. Roll call, announcements, a reminder about clean shoes in training rooms. Nami took notes the way she always did. Straight lines, small letters, facts that would be useful if someone asked her at a bad time. Second PRD belonged to All Might, except today he came in without the cape civilian form, lanky and tall, baggy clothes hanging like he'd borrowed them from a taller scarecrow. He still filled a doorway. He always would. "Good morning," he started, then coughed, then tried again at normal volume, "Good morning." His eyes swept the class and landed on Nami for half a second longer than professional. The recognition hit him the way memories hit when you don't invite them. Jawline. The way she tilted her head slightly to listen before she spoke. He smiled too big to cover the flicker and kept moving. The lesson was simple: observation drills. "Being a hero isn't just punching," he said, drawing a quick stick figure doing both. "It's noticing what to punch and what not to punch." It got a laugh even from people who didn't like jokes. Nami watched, wrote, answered once when called. All Might watched the class and didn't watch her and then accidentally did again. He missed a beat on a prop card and caught it late. Aizawa in the back corner wrote a note slowly and did not look up. When the bell rang and the room dissolved into noise, All Might's smile stayed in place while his eyes went teacher serious. "Young Midoriya," he said, nodding toward the door. Izuku walked down with his notebook tucked to his chest like it might fall out. "Yes, sir?" All Might kept his voice gentle. "You think too much about your training." Izuku panicked. I can think less." "That was not a complaint," All Might said, amused. "It was a setup for a suggestion. Take a break after classes today. Do something ordinary. Invite Miss Shigarame. It would be good for you both." Izuku blinked. He was good at directions. This was a direction. "Yes, sir." "Observation is training," All Might added. "The world tells you who it is if you let it." "Yes, sir," Izuku said again. Underneath that, he heard the unspoken part, "Keep an eye on her." He didn't know why it made his chest tighten. "All right then," All Might said, moving on with a brightness that had learned how to hide edges. "Eat the proper lunch. That's also training." Izuku nodded so hard his hair shook and escaped to go do what he was told. After last PRD, Izuku found Nami at the shoe lockers. She had her book bag neatly zipped, bottles balanced in one hand. "Do you want to hang out after school?" he asked, heart apparently trying to get out of his throat. "All Might said I should take a break, and I'm very obedient," And I thought if you're free. I'm free, Nami said easy. I need to buy groceries. The relief that ran across his face was almost funny. Perfect. I'm good at carrying things. I can tell, Nami said. He didn't know if that was a joke. He liked that. They walked. Ida shouted something about reflective gear as if it were night. Achiko waved, conspiratorial, and mouthed be safe in the way friends do when they mean have fun. Bakugo glanced at them and gave Izuku a look that promised he would ask invasive questions later. Izuku pretended not to understand. They took the blue line. The car was less crowded than morning. Izuku told a short story about a math problem that looked easy and wasn't. Nami told a short story about a vending machine that ate Ida's coin and gave him a lesson instead. The city unspooled outside the windows. Which stop? Izuku asked. 2 more, Nami said. It's not far. They got off and stepped into a neighborhood of small buildings with balconies that held plants trying their best. Nami led the way down a clean street. She stopped in front of a small building with a keypad. This is me, she said. Izuku looked up at it like it might explain itself. You live alone? Yes, Nami said, entering the code. My father arranged it. It's safe. He didn't ask how. The door clicked. They took the stairs. The hallway smelled faintly of someone else's dinner and a cleaning product that had overachieved. Nami opened a gray door and stepped aside. Please come in. Izuku took off his shoes because that was what you did when you were raised correctly. He stepped into a small studio that looked exactly like Nami, neat, quiet, arranged. Bedmate. Desk tidy. 2 bottles refilling at the sink. A small bookcase organized by era, early hero agencies, sidekicks and support, rescue case studies, and a row of thin DVD cases with labels in careful handwriting, All Might, Golden Era, Deku, Coastal Rescues Compilation, Support Tech Power Load Special. There was a poster on the wall, All Might, signed in permanent marker, dedication generic. Not personal. She had bought it somewhere, not been given it. Izuku's brain made a soft popping noise. Wait. You have the Coastal Rescues compilation? That series went out of print. How did you? Used shop, Nami said. I asked them to call me if anything good came in. He walked to the shelf like it was a shrine and read titles with hungry eyes. Do you have the 2079 amendment summary? He asked, not expecting the answer to be yes. Nami reached into a magazine file and handed him a stapled packet with tabs. Collateral Protocol Revision. Annotated. He made a sound that was not a word. They sat on the floor by the low table without having to coordinate it. Within 60 seconds they were trading obscure trivia like kids trading stickers. He referenced a defunct rooftop rescue outfit. She countered with their ladder maintenance scandal. He brought up the sidekick in the red goggles who'd only lasted 1 season. She had his full real name and the 2 times he showed up as a consultant 10 years later. He recited a regulation number. She recited the memo that corrected it. They laughed at the same beats. Not loud. Just pleased. I didn't think anyone else kept track of, Izuku started, then gestured at the room because the room was the answer. I had to learn, Nami said. Movies teach a lot if you pay attention. Yeah, he said. Same. He realized the fridge was humming and looked over. Do you mind if he pointed. Go ahead, Nami said. He opened it. The contents, 2 trays of cut watermelon, a bag of cucumbers, yogurt cups, a row of water bottles, a single lemon, and the kind of mustard that looks like it answers a dare. The cabinets held rice, miso packets, tea, salt, 3 bowls, 2 plates. No pans. 1 saucepan dented where someone had bumped it in transit. You really eat like this? He asked, trying to keep judgment out and failing. It's easy, Nami said. And I forget fewer meals if they're cold. He closed the fridge slowly, like he was worried it might be offended. Can I cook? Just something simple? If that's okay. Nami blinked. Okay. I'll run to the corner store, he said, already halfway to his shoes. Back in 10 minutes. Don't move unless you want to. You can move. I'm not ordering. Sorry. I'll be here, Nami said. He was back in 7 with rice bowls, 2 eggs, scallions, miso packets, tofu, and the kind of determination that made you follow a recipe that only existed in your head. He washed his hands like a surgeon. He opened the window half an inch so steam had a place to go. He set water boiling and cracked eggs into a bowl and whisked like the eggs had done something to him in a past life. Nami stood at the counter and watched. The smell warmed the room. It hit parts of her body she didn't normally pay attention to. She sat cross-legged on the floor when he told her to sit because he was carrying hot things, and she didn't argue with hot things. "Sorry, it's not fancy," he said. "It smells nice," Nami said. She meant the miso. She also meant the scallion and the small strip of steam that curled from the bowl like a pet. He handed her chopsticks and a bowl. Her fingers trembled when she held the heat the first time. Not from fear. From being unused to the temperature of something that wasn't water. "Careful," he said, and then realized she was already being careful. "Right. You're careful." She took a bite. It wasn't complicated. It didn't have to be. She exhaled through her nose and then realized she had made a small sound. "Good?" he asked, eager and shy. "Very," she said. "Thank you." He ate his own portion fast and then slowed down when he remembered to. He put his bowl down and drank water and looked at the shelf again like it might have rearranged itself while he wasn't looking. "Do you really live here alone?" he asked, not prying exactly. "Yes," Nami said. "It's quiet. No curfew." He nodded. "I live with my mom." "I know," Nami said. "You talk about her like home." He laughed softly. "Yeah. She is. You should visit sometime. If you want. She likes guests." Nami thought about a kitchen that smelled like dinner and a voice in the next room and things left out on purpose because someone would be back for them. "Maybe," she said. "Thank you." They washed dishes. Izuku insisted on doing most of it. Nami insisted on drying thoroughly because damp in a cabinet felt wrong. They fell into a rhythm of small chores like people who had known each other longer than they had. They sat again with the hero documentaries pulled out like old friends. Nami slid a case across the table. "This one," she said. "The coastal rescues in winter. The part where the helicopter lowers the basket and the rope snaps and he uses his belt." Izuku lit up. "Issue 47, he said. "Power load." "Exactly," Nami said, smug and happy. They put it in. The opening credits hummed. They watched 6 minutes and then paused and talked for 12. They darted down rabbit holes and came back like it was easy. Nami didn't sound blunt here. She sounded like a person allowed to be excited in her own house. Izuku matched it with ridiculous, learned ease. At one point he said, "All Might told me to take a break," like he had to admit he wasn't disobeying. "Rest is part of endurance," Nami said. He tilted his. "You sound like him." "Maybe I read the same books," she said. Which was true and not all of it. The sky outside slid from afternoon to that color that happens before streetlights admit responsibility. Izuku checked the clock and made a face that said he had lost track of time and didn't regret it. "I should go," he said, reluctant. "My mom will worry if I'm late. I mean, she'll always worry, but I make it worse if I forget to text." "You should go," Nami said. "Thank you for dinner." "Anytime," he said, like he meant tomorrow, and then realized what he'd said and blushed. "I mean, yeah." They packed the bowls away. He put the miso packets she hadn't used in her cabinet and did not take credit for it. She put the window back to its half-inch. The apartment smelled like food in a way it hadn't before. It changed the shape of the air. They put on shoes. She walked him to the station because walking people places felt correct. It had rained somewhere else and moved here in little pieces. The light moisture sat on everything without making a point. Izuku popped his umbrella for both of them. Nami closed it halfway and stepped into the fringe. "It smells clean," she said. "Yeah," he said, and then realized, "That's your name. Shigarame means morning rain." "I know," she said, casually pleased. "It's a good smell." "It is," he said. They stood under the awning and watched the train arrive, doors sliding with that precise sound. "Thank you for letting me see your place," he said. "It's nice. Very you." "Thank you for cooking," she said. Very you." He smiled, sheepish. "See you tomorrow?" "Tomorrow," Nami said. He hopped on, waved through the glass, and then all the air moved and he was gone. Nami walked back. The studio felt different after hot food and shared laughter. Not bigger, just warmer. She refilled both bottles, placed one by the bed, one on the desk. She wrote a small note and stuck it on the wall with the others. Tell Izuku when I need food. By Scallions. Watch issue 47 again later. She texted. Dinner with friend. Ordinary. Everything fine. The reply came after a few seconds. Keep ordinary. The water listens to you. Okay, she wrote. It does. She set the phone down and put the documentary back on, just for the first minute, just to hear the theme. She turned it off before the part that would make her want to keep watching. She brushed her hair in long strokes. She put the brush down. She turned off the big light and turned on the small one. She sat on the edge of the bed for 1 minute and listened to the building breathe. Ordinary felt like enough. Not forever. Just tonight. She lay down and didn't need rain sounds. The leftover steam in the window glass curled and faded. Her body registered food at the correct temperature in the correct order and decided to reward her with sleep. Across the city, a tall man looked at a screen too long and thought about faces that repeat themselves. A boy told his mother he'd eaten with a friend and she smiled like the world was fair for once. In a bar with a cracked sign, a girl with a knife in her pocket told the ceiling about a new friend and meant it. Nami slept, hydrated and a little less hungry than yesterday. Tomorrow would be early and neat. She would line her shoes, fill her bottle, and answer questions. She would ask some too. For now, ordinary was enough. Izuku woke up before his alarm because his brain hadn't stopped since last night. He stood in the kitchen with his notebook already under his arm like he might need to consult it about toast. Morning, sweetie, his mom said, tying her hair back. You're up early. Hi, sorry. I mean good morning. She whisked eggs with a practiced hand. Did you study too hard again? Not exactly, he said, which technically covered watching a documentary in a very clean apartment and cooking miso and talking about rescue ladder scandals for 90 minutes. She set a plate in front of him. I approve of not exactly. Then you can race around. He ate because you don't disrespect Inko Midoriya's eggs. He thought about Nami's fridge watermelon, cucumbers, yogurt, and ambitious mustard and felt his stomach do an empathy clench. He pushed his plate away and then pulled it back, because leaving food would worry his mother. He finished the last bite and put the dish in the sink. Big day? She asked, deliberately casual. Regular day, he said. Which is big in its own way. She smiled at him in that way that says I know you're telling me the truth and also not all of it. Have a good one. You too, he said, hugged her quick and grabbed his notebook. By the time the train doors closed, he was already writing on his knee. Subject, Shigurame Nami. Course, 1A transfer, 2 weeks late. Quirk, hydrokinesis, creation plus manipulation, source lineage unknown. Primary drawback, dehydration, mitigates with high water foods and constant intake. Control, exceptional, fine motor precision, air pocket maintenance demonstrated, W supervision. He tapped his pencil against the page, then added a line that didn't fit anywhere obvious. Personal, hands tremble a little when holding heat. He underlined heat and didn't know why. The train squealed. A kid yawned. Izuku went back to categorizing her strength like that would keep anything from spilling. Next page. Behavioral. A voice quiet but clear, not timid. A response to humor delay 0.5 to 1.0 seconds. Genuine, not performative. Eye contact steady, non-confrontational. Thanks people reflexively, servers, door holders, vending machines. Does not fake surprise. Says ordinary, like it's a good word. He circled ordinary, drew an arrow to the margin and wrote, means safe for her. He put a question mark and then 2 more because he didn't like being sure about guesses. He got off at UA and walked fast because walking fast keeps brains from overheating. The courtyard looked like the courtyard. The sky made up its mind about clouds. He went through the doors and into the same morning he always had, except his head now had a small, neat studio apartment in it and kept checking to make sure the window was still open a half inch. Homeroom went like homeroom. Aizawa took attendance without reading from the list, scolded Mineta for something minor to prevent something major, then sank into his sleeping bag and continued to be a teacher anyway. Nami looked as she always did, uniform straight, hair damp, water bottle where water bottles like to be, pencil ready. You hadn't seen her last night, you wouldn't notice the way her blazer hung looser at the shoulders. Izuku noticed and then forced himself to look at his own paper because he was not raised to be rude. He forgot his pen. He turned to whisper, "Can I?" and she was already holding one out. He took it, said thank you twice, and then a third time, softer because the second one felt like tripping over the first. She smiled once small, like a light being turned on for a test, and then off again to save electricity. Second PRD was strategy review. Ida, Kirishima, and Nami took the front table for a group exercise. The hypothetical, collapsed building, gas leak, 2 missing people, 1 panicked crowd, 3 heroes. Ida wanted to chop the air into SB Emerson. Kirishima wanted to run in with optimism. Nami leaned forward, elbows on the edge of the table. If everyone's shouting orders, she said, calm, nobody's listening. 1 loud voice, 2 quiet hands. Ida takes the perimeter, gets the crowd back without yelling. Kirishima anchors the stairwell and keeps people from re-entering. I call emergency services before we move. Then we find the leak. No one is a hero for the first 4 minutes. The room paused the way rooms pause when someone has said a sentence that is going to live in it for the rest of the semester. Aizawa's mouth almost smiled, which is like someone else doing a cartwheel. Izuku wrote the phrase down as if it mattered, which it did. Protocol note: no one is a hero for the first 4 minutes. Crowd control called triage move. He looked up and Nami was just sitting there, like she hadn't put a new sign over the door of his brain. At lunch, he escaped to the quieter corner near the vending machines. He opened the notebook to a fresh spread and titled the page Hydro Girl Data Log because giving things names made them safer to hold. He started with facts. Physical, 160 centimeters. Estimate. Strength, within normal range, not enhanced. Agility, above average. Coordination, mirrors partner pace. Endurance, unknown. Controlled tests in pool, 10 minutes under supervision, no noticeable fatigue. Quirk vectors, liquid, vapor, microcurrent, possible solid ice generation, untested, ask recovery girl. He flipped the pen in his fingers, then wrote the part that wasn't numbers. Observation, she said heroes, hold the gentle things. Note, best definition yet. Not performative. Not directed at anyone. She believes it. He stared at the sentence until it blurred and then decided blinking would fix it. It did, but only a little. Writing battle notes again? Kirishima asked, dropping a tray on the table like a friendly anvil. Izuku closed the notebook too fast. Strategy. For the future. Hypothetically. Cool, Kirishima said. Just don't overthink it, bro. Right? Izuku said, already way past that checkpoint. Kirishima leaned, curious. You ever do notes on classmates? No, Izuku said, which was true and felt suddenly complicated. I mean, I try not to. It's rude. He reconsidered. Unless they ask. Want me to ask? Kirishima grinned. You can put man in my strengths. Izuku laughed. You get that one for free. The afternoon drill paired him with Nami for agility and team movement. They stood at the start line, waiting for the cue. The course had cones, a low hurdle, and a narrow bridge, the kind of setup built to teach people to stop being heroes alone. Ready, the TA called. Izuku looked at Nami. She looked at the first turn, then at him. Left foot first, she said. It's your better. He didn't ask how she knew that. Okay. The whistle. They moved. Nami matched his pace without stepping on his rhythm, like she could hear the way his feet liked to land. She called out, narrow, half a second before the bridge, low, before the hurdle, you're good, when he did something good. He was used to running alone. The echo of a teammate inside his speed felt like discovering a new muscle. Halfway through, he stumbled on a cone because he was looking at her when she laughed, just a small, involuntary sound when he corrected a misstep, pure pleasure at someone not falling. It shattered his last defenses against being a human person. Midoriya, Aizawa said from the sidelines without raising his voice, which made it worse. Eyes on the course, not your partner. The snickers came and went quick. Izuku flushed up to his ears. Nami didn't tease. She said, right foot, and the instruction pulled him back into his body. They finished clean. Good, she said afterward, simple. You too, he said, not managing elaboration. They grabbed water and sat on the bench. Bakugo stalked by, glanced at Izuku, and smirked like the world had provided enrichment. Eyes forward, nerd. I know, Izuku mumbled and then whispered, he's not wrong, because practice is practice, even when your ego has died. All Might caught him in the hall after. Not loud. Not smiling like a billboard. Just present. How was your break, young Midoriya? Good, Izuku said. I studied ordinary things. Excellent. All Might's gaze slid to where Nami was leaving with Uraraka, animated by a story about a vending machine that had learned to judge people. He didn't say anything about it, but his eyes didn't know how to lie. He looked back at Izuku with the smile reset. Observation is progress. Yes, sir. Eat, All Might added as if food were a training module. So you can keep doing it. I will, Izuku said, and thought I fed someone yesterday and I want to again and I don't know what that means, and then put that thought away very carefully. He went home through a sky that couldn't commit to rain and ended up being gray with opinions. The apartment smelled like dinner the second he opened the door. Hi, Mom, he called, kicking off his shoes. In here, she said from the kitchen. Miso again, but different, vegetables, the sound of oil being honest in a pan. He washed his hands and took up a chopping board like a soldier taking up a shield. You're smiley, she said, because she noticed everything. I'm always smiley, he lied. She said, like sure, and handed him a carrot. Cut. They cooked. They ate. He cleaned up while she scrolled through something on her phone and failed to hide the fact that she was watching cat videos. He retreated to his desk with tea and the notebook. He opened to the Hydro Girl data log spread and stared for a second like it might have something new if he looked hard enough. He didn't mean to write a paragraph. He did anyway. She's not like the others I've studied. Not because she's stronger, though her control is a lot, but because nothing about her is a performance. Even when she's on, it's because she thinks you need it, not because she needs you to see it. She says, ordinary, like a promise. She said, heroes, hold the gentle things. And I think that's the first time anyone has made my brain go quiet in a classroom. He stopped and put the pen down because his handwriting had started slanting and that meant feelings. He took a breath, then wrote in smaller letters, like he was sneaking it past his own eyes. She looked lonely in a clean way. He underlined lonely once and then drew a box around it because boxes made dangerous words stay where they belonged. He flipped the page and drew circles and arrows to be safe. Hypotheses about Quirk's stamina. Potential training protocols that would be safe for her hydration levels. A table for humidity variance between the gym and outside. A small diagram of the air pockets shape from yesterday, labeled approximate volume 2.5 cubic meters. He knew it was imprecise. He wrote ask later and meant ask if she'll let me. His phone vibrated. He looked down. Text from her. Did you remember to eat dinner? Ordinary is important. He smiled before he typed. Did you? Watched a documentary. Issue 47 again. He laughed out loud. Inko yelled from the kitchen, what's so funny? And he yelled back, a rescue ladder, and she said, of course. Best one, he typed. Agreed. He put the phone down. It buzzed again immediately. Do you have the 2079 amendment packet? I can make you a copy. He took a photo of his tabbed version, 3/4 proud and 1/4 embarrassed that his tabs were color-coded. Already do. Yours is better though. Her response came back with a little typing delay that looked like thinking. We can compare. He wrote yes please and then stared at it like it was 2 NTMT and then decided it wasn't. He sent it. He went out to the small balcony because the apartment air felt the way air feels after you've remembered something good. The sky couldn't commit to rain again but was trying. He could smell it. He opened the notebook one more time and wrote at the bottom of the page, small and certain. She's like me but quiet. He hesitated, then added. and I think the world's better for it. He closed the notebook. The sound was gentle, like a page turning on its own. Inside, his mother called, "Tea?" And he said, "Yes," and that was the end of the night, except that it wasn't, because his brain had already made the next morning look like a train car with a space near the door where a girl would stand with a water bottle and a small smile and the kind of calm that makes problem-solving easier. He woke before his alarm again, but this time it didn't feel like failure. He made rice for breakfast because he could, because he was going to make it for two the next time he had the chance, because ordinary had turned out to be training and he wanted to pass. On the train, he flipped the notebook open to the spread he'd written last night. A guy sneezed. A woman apologized to her bag for bumping it into his knee. Outside, the city was already awake. He added 3 new bullet points under behavioral. Laughs when people don't fall. Shares umbrellas by closing them. Writes, done, on sticky notes to make things feel finished. He paused. That last one he had not seen, he had imagined it. He couldn't explain why it felt right anyway. He crossed it out. He wrote instead. Writes things down so they don't have to live in her head. He nodded to himself. He closed the notebook and breathed in air that smelled like rain that couldn't commit. He smiled, a little, at nothing obvious. By the time school gates came into view, he had decided 3 things. He was going to bring leftovers whenever he could and pretend it was no big deal. He was going to ask Recovery Girl about endurance tests for stable air pockets, with permission from exactly everyone. He was going to write down the things Nami said that made rooms quieter, because those lines would be useful when rooms got loud. He stepped through the gate with his shoulders less tense than usual. He saw her down the hall, water bottle in the right spot, hair damp as always, talking to Achiko about vending machines as if vending machines had feelings. He lifted a hand. She saw him and lifted hers back. He thought, hold the gentle things. He thought nothing else for about 10 seconds, which, for him, was a world record. In the back of the room, Aizawa pretended to sleep and did not. All Might pretended not to worry and did. Somewhere else in the city, a man who built futures like other people built cabinets looked at a screen and told himself a story about control. Izuku sharpened his pencil to a point that would not break. He opened his notebook to a fresh page. He wrote the date and the word ordinary at the top. Then he started another list, because lists were how he made feelings do math. To the lunch. Ask one useful question. Say, thank you, the right number of times. Don't trip over cones. Listen. He underlined the last one. He drew a box around it. He left the box open at the top, like a door, because some goals didn't need to be closed. Outside, the sky finally decided to rain. Inside, the room felt ready. He put the pen down. He picked it up again. He breathed. He didn't know what he was doing, which meant he was probably doing it right. The room obeyed him. Not because it feared him, rooms can't fear, but because every cable, valve, and monitor had been arranged to respond to small decisions made hours earlier. Light at 40%. Air filtered twice, then warmed. Machines behind the wall breathing for someone else. The hum of electricity tuned low enough not to irritate a headache. He sat where he always sat, in the chair that looked unremarkable until you saw the discrete ports at the back, the thin lines disappearing into the wall, the redundant power feed. No mask today. The tubes hung loose over the armrest, coiled like leashed snakes. He did not need them every hour. He needed them near. On the nearest screen, the UA classroom unfroze to a still. The camera's vantage was distant, an echo of a ceiling dome. He zoomed until the pixels showed seams, then stepped back 1 click. Enough. Volume 2, Shigarame file, he said, voice calm, pitched for the small recorder that sat to his right disguised as a paperweight. The child has adapted to the environment. Watched the frame for 10 breaths. Nami sat with her elbows close to her sides, bottle fixed back right on the desk, hair damp. Midoriya target 1 leaned forward 2 rows ahead, already poised to answer a question no one had asked. The teacher Aizawa looked asleep and was not. Ordinary, he added. As instructed. He touched another control. The next screen offered a train car, morning crowd density at 70%. Nami near the door, posture good but not performative. Midoriya approached with care, as if approaching an animal that might bolt. They spoke. He could not hear this feed, but he didn't need to. He saw the half-bun exchanged, the quiet coordination of halves, the space left for manners. Trust moved between them like something hand-carried. He rewound. He watched again. I anticipated competition, he told the recorder. Not synchronization. The chair's spine adjusted a fraction to his breathing. The oxygen line nosed his wrist, looking for a cue. He ignored it. The fatigue was real. It was also scheduled. Midoriya offered food. Nami accepted without bargaining. He tapped the pause key and studied the girl's face in that moment just after she took the bread. Contentment, small and clean. Not greed. Good, he said mostly to himself. Accepts nourishment, does not seek it. A technical feed in the corner reported hydration levels on a delay. Kurogyari had finally convinced him to allow that passive tracking. For medical stability, the polite phrase for my sanity while you play chess with other people's lives. The numbers fell where he liked them. Steady high. She was drinking as taught. He let the UA screen run without sound as he pulled a thin file from the table. He did not keep paper often. Paper helped for 3 kinds of things. Very old debts, very simple lists, and very private thoughts that would never see a network. This was the third. The cover read legacy plans in tidy block letters that could not betray a hand. Inside, a fresh page. He wrote across the top with a cheap, reliable pen. Subject, Shigarame Nami. Then in neat lines. Psychological profile, curiosity over fear. Obedience trained with praise, not threat. A behavioral trend, attaches to consistent warmth. Control trend, hides maximum output unless given XPLCT license to reveal. A risk, attachment to target 1 deepens, possible deviation from directive compliance. Opportunity, target 1 proximity allows indirect observation of 1 for all succession network. He paused. The room clicked, not in warning, just in acknowledgement that 10 minutes had passed. He turned down the air by 2% without looking. On the UA screen, Aizawa split the class into groups. Nami went where told. She smiled when someone made a joke that was not very good. He sat back. She smiles more when she thinks she is not being watched, he noted. Record that. The recorder blinked once. A second screen showed a shorter clip he'd set to loop every hour. Pool, empty except for 2 teenagers. The boy's face open with shock that turned into awe. The girl's wrist steady. The water forming a clean shell around them without bravado. No sound, just light bending where it should not be able to bend. He increased the brightness until the glow painted the room a shallow blue. Precision, he said, not to the machines. Envy of gods. He let it run until the boy sat, until the girl sat, until both breathed like people who had found a room in the world where air was not rationed. Then he stopped it, because indulgence was still indulgence when it looked like supervision. The door at the far end opened without a knock, because only 2 people would do so and the other could not stand without aid. Kurogyari arrived as a fog before he resolved into a man-shaped presence carrying a tray. Tea, Kurogyari said. Thank you, he answered, because manners were not a costume. They were policy. Kurogyari set the tray on the side table, glanced once at the screens, then away because he maintained lines for everyone, including his employer. She texted last night, he said in that respectful tone of someone who observes only what they are allowed to. Arrived safely. Used the word, ordinary. A small corner of him warmed. Good. She brought snacks to the bar, Kurogyari added, as if that mattered only a little. Rice crackers. She gave the staff thanks. Of course she did, he said. She was raised. Kurogyari's mist curled at the edges, which in him passed for a smile. She was, he agreed. How is Tamura, he asked, because the question mattered and because it let Kurogyari leave without feeling dismissed. Irritated, affectionate, restless, Kurogyari said. Typical. Good, he said, and Kurogyari was gone in that polite, silent way. No drama, no display. Only utility. Without shifting his posture, he brought up the security overlay on a separate panel, News pings, hero patrol paths, a muted law enforcement chatter he had long since learned to let wash over him. All Might moved across a different map like a red line in a maze. He dragged that feed nearer to Nami's in his arrangement, a childish move he permitted when no one else was in the room. He did not speak All Might's name often. Naming has weight. But the map glowed with it anyway. He took the pen again. New lines. All Might, present, diminished, still statistically problematic. Successor, Midoriya Izuku active, promising, volatile. Daughter, Nami calm, adaptive, invisible by design. He drew an arrow from daughter to successor with a single word above the line. Bridge. The door opened again, not Kurojire's kind of opening. Tamura walked in without looking at the walls, which always made him look like a boy pretending he hadn't memorized a maze. Hoodie up. Controller in one hand, as if he'd forgotten to put it down before being pulled by an idea. You watching her again? Tamura asked, as if teasing, as if not entirely teasing. Yes, he said. She's adapting well. Tamura crossed the room without asking, looked up at the screen that held the train. He squinted at Midoriya the way cats squint at things that move in a field they don't control. He looks like he'd apologize to a tree for giving it shade. Not inaccurate, he allowed. She's going to outgrow this, Tamura said. He said it like a complaint and a forecast at once. Children are meant to outgrow rooms, he said mildly. Otherwise they stagnate. Tamura rolled a shoulder. Restless. You sound proud. I am, he said, because lying to your children is a worse habit than telling them too much. Tamura's eyes cut to the pool clip, left up by design. She took him under, he said, something like envy and fondness rubbing together into a spark. Show off. No, he corrected gently. Trust. One does not show off with air. Tamura made a face. She's getting soft. He shook his head just once. Softness is armor. People lower their weapons for it. Tamura's mouth did the twist it did when a sentence annoyed him because it made sense. He looked at the classroom feed again, the boy leaning in, the girl tilting her head. He tapped the edge of the console with an irritated knuckle. Don't make her fight me when this blows up, he said. She won't have to, he answered. She'll choose. Tamura snorted. And I bet you already picked it for her. No, he said, and the word carried weight because he rarely cast weight hard. I built the bridge. I did not decide the weather. Tamura stared for another second like he wanted to find an angle to argue. Then he threw up a hand as if to shrug off an itch and headed for the door. Whatever, he said, as a ritual to end conversations he'd lost. Text me if no. Don't text me. Kurojire can tell me if she. Forget it. I'll have Kurojire tell you if you need telling, he said, which would make the boy calmer without admitting that either of them needed calming. When the door closed, the room returned to its preferred state, a machine with a single user. He let himself smile. Private. It was not aimed at anything on the screens. It existed in a cracked mirror in the back of his head where he kept modest satisfactions. She had walked into the bar like she belonged. She had thanked Kurojire because people should be thanked. She had pressed fingers with Toga if Kurojire's notes were accurate, a curious ritual, harmless enough, the sort of intimacy that bled only a dot and changed a life. He toggled the audio on the classroom feed for the span of a single question. Aizawa asked something about perimeter control. Nami's voice joined two others, lower, clean, not loud. The audio went off again. He did not need much. He let the pen roll in his fingers and forced himself through a short inventory, the kind of dull checklists that keep men like him alive longer than men like him deserve. Pain, 3 manageable. Breath, short even. Right hand, function at 90%. Left at 60%. He reached for the oxygen line, considered, set it down. Another 10 minutes before DSPLN surrendered to maintenance. On the secondary monitor, All Might stood at an intersection redirecting traffic with a warning cone and a smile that could move nations. The symbol remained, even if the scaffolding beneath it had thinned. He watched the man's shape longer than he meant to and felt the old ache under his ribs that had nothing to do with injuries and everything to do with continuity. Your boy radiates compulsion, he said to no one. He makes others try harder. He will inspire her or consume her curiosity. He set a finger on the pool clip and rewound 3 seconds. The exact moment the surface closed above the two of them and turned the world into a blue room. He watched Nami's face not to measure relief or fear neither appeared but to mark the certainty in her eyes when the environment obeyed. Control without show. The quirk fit the hand fit the intent. There is a kind of power that looks like kindness if you don't know systems. He knew systems. The comm at his elbow buzzed. He pressed the accept without looking. Her hydration levels remain optimal. Cute-Eye's voice said, tinny through the line, filtered twice through something cheap. You should rest. I am resting, he said and meant it. She rests. I watch. Symbiosis. You're indulging sentiment, the doctor said, part accusation, part affection. Their decades allowed both. I'm remembering purpose, he said. Even decay requires a seed. Cute-Eye made the amused, appalled sound he made when philosophy threatened to intrude on lab protocol. You romanticize too much in the morning. In the evening I call it planning, he said. Keep your screens on her hydration. If it drops, I want to know before she does. Of course, Cute-Eye said. You still haven't told me what you plan to do about the Midoriya proximity. It is statistically significant. Let it deepen, he said. Watching someone learn to trust teaches you what they will betray. You sound certain, Cute-Eye said. I am, he said, and ended the call before the man could start on lectures about control groups. He made himself stand. Not far just to the counter where Kurogyari had left the tea. He poured. He held the cup with his right hand and did not resent, for once, that he had to set it down to pull open the drawer with the lemon. He cut 2 thin circles. He watched the knife move through yellow flesh without any metaphors attached to it. He returned to his chair with the cup and the only scent in the room that did not come from a machine. On the class feed, All Might entered the room. He did not wear the cape. His humor misfired once, then landed. He saw Nami and for a heartbeat, mistimed his smile. Even at this distance, through all this glass, the line of his mouth sagged lower by half a centimeter before he salvaged it with volume. The man was good at his job. Memory still hit him like a thrown rock. He set the tea down. The warmth warmed nothing inside him. That had been true for a long time. He wrote new lines. All Might reaction to Nami, suppression of recognition. Probability that he notices resemblance to an earlier face, 87%. Probability he acts on suspicion without evidence, 6%. Probability he delegates observation to successor, 62%. He tapped the pen against the table twice. A soft habit. A tiny admission. The machine did not mind. He flicked to a different camera, one with a view down a campus corridor into late afternoon. Midoriya and Nami walked side by side, 2 feet apart as students do when they have not yet declared an allegiance to an arms brush. The boy carried something heavy the girl could carry herself as if it were training. The girl let him. They talked. The boy gestured. The girl let her eyes do most of the talking back. He could not hear, but he did not need to. He reduced the screen and pulled up the file again. The attachment timeline accelerated. 3 shared environments. 1 shared meal. 1 shared secret. Intervention required. None. Monitoring. Continuous. He added a line, small, almost an afterthought. She looks at him like he solves noise. He set the pen down before he wrote anything else too human to be useful. The oxygen line bumped his knuckles again. He considered being stubborn. He lifted it anyway and let the soft hiss change the quality of the next breath. The chair adjusted. He did not pretend strength had anything to do with refusing tools. He looked to the wall where the old map hung under glass. Not countries. Not battle plans. A personal cartography. A lattice of circles with names in them, lines between names indicating trust, debt, obligation, hunger. Some circles had been crossed out in neat excess. Some had been moved closer to the center over time. In one corner, in a color no one else used, a circle had a single word, rain. He did not move that circle. He did not draw from it. He let it be a marker of where a thing began. The door at the far end opened just enough to admit a human head and too much hair. "You need anything?" Tamura asked, not because he believed it but because he had been trained, begrudgingly, to offer. "No," he said. "I have my morning." Tamura looked at the oxygen line like it was a competitor. "You look weird without the mask." "I prefer it," he said. "For this." Tamura made a face, a boy's face that did not fit the body he had filed around it. "I'm going back," he said. "Tell Kurogyri no." "I'll tell Kurogyri." "Do that," he said, and Tamura was gone. He let the silence settle. The machine hummed. The Deku. On the screen, the boy with the notebooks missed a cone because he looked at the girl and forgot that cones exist. Aizawa corrected him with one sentence and no temperature change. The girl did not turn red. The boy did. It was almost funny. He toggled the locker hallway camera for a few minutes out of habit. Small human things occurred there that revealed more than formal rooms ever did. The girl opened her locker, lined her shoes, moved a sticky note that read "done" from one page to another. He smiled again. No witness to it. He could have a private fondness for administrative neatness. Kings had been built on less. He set timers. One for medication, one for a data pull from a device in a place most civilians would never see, one for Kurogyri to remind him to stand again. He recorded a subsection in the file for the doctor because shared language prevents accidents. To doctor, maintain hydration telemetry. Quietly flag any significant deviations. We do not spook the specimen. We win it. He underlined quietly twice because the man understood science but still underestimated adolescence. On the train feed, evening now, the two stood under an awning while rain decided whether to arrive. The boy held an umbrella. The girl shortened it to stand in the fringe. He read the shape of the smile without zooming. He let himself, just once, say her name aloud with no title around it. "Nami." The room did not object. It took the sound the way pipes take water through, not away. He shut down the feeds one by one the way you put a house to bed. All Might's map dimmed last. The comm blinked once more. "You should sleep," Kyudai said, softer, because he could hear the oxygen and had done this dance enough times to know its steps. "In a moment," he said. "Do you know what peace is, doctor?" "I suspect we define it differently," Kyudai said dry. "It is when the next generation does not realize the war chose them already." Kyudai made a noise that meant too dramatic and not wrong. 5 minutes, he said and cut the line. He folded his hands right-gloved, left scarred and looked not at the screens, not at the map, but at the empty chair opposite his own. He pictured a small figure there, feet not reaching the floor years ago, now reaching, head tilted, asking why frogs jump when they are already where they belong. He pictured a 10-year-old boy glaring at nothing and daring it to blink first. He pictured his own hands teaching both of them to hold things without crushing them, praise given when obedience and curiosity shared orbit. "You will both hate me for parts of this," he said to the empty chair, to two ghosts who were not ghosts. "That is the price of building anything that lasts." He touched the recorder. "End of entry," he said. The screens went dark in sequence. The hum deepened by one note, the way rooms do when they decide to keep people alive for another night. He leaned back. He allowed the mask for 2 minutes while the world narrowed to a simple loop. Inhale, exhale, maintain. He removed it again and set it aside. He turned off the lamp and let only the panel lights show the shape of the space. "Grow well, my rainchild," he said, almost too soft to be recorded. "The soil is thirsty." The machines answered in the only language they had, a steady, obedient hum. Far above the earth, weather rolled toward a city that had learned to live with it. He closed his eyes. The room obeyed.